Its entire body was covered in ink-black scales, each as large as a wash basin, layered together and shimmering with a metallic luster under the glow of the eerie blue light. The edges of the scales were as sharp as knives, twitching slightly with its breath and making a rasping sound. Its head resembled a Kirin, yet it was far more ferocious. A pair of horns was as sharp as battle axes, and its eyes were as large as copper bells, with inextinguishable blue flames burning within its pupils. Its snout protruded slightly, with a row of sharp fangs in both the upper and lower jaws. The two longest ones poked out from the sides of its mouth like two scimitars. Its body was as sturdy as an ox, with thick limbs that ended in sharp, five-toed claws. A pair of wings, as black as iron and flickering with blue flames, spread out to a width of 10 zhang. It hovered above the blazing demon forest, its wings flapping slowly. Every beat whipped up a gale, sweeping gravel and severed limbs from the ground into the air. Its gaze swept down over everyone present in the distance. There was no anger or killing intent in those blue eyes, only indifference, like a monarch looking down at ants. This is... Xuanming's lips were still trembling. The massive creature was reflected in his pupils, and the color drained from his face at a visible rate. He had fought on battlefields for centuries, slain countless fierce beasts, and met many powerful experts, but he had never felt such pressure. It was a kind of pressure that made one lose any thought of resistance. The 9 Nether Kirin King. Bei Xiao's voice squeezed through his teeth, every word sounding as if it took all his strength, before he whispered softly. This is a 9 Nether Kirin King, comparable to the Half-Emperor realm. As soon as the words Half-Emperor were spoken, everyone's expression changed. Half-Emperor, an existence only half a step away from the Great Emperor realm. It was an existence capable of crushing everyone present. Xuanming's hand holding his blade trembled slightly, not out of fear but out of instinct. Facing the pressure of the Half-Emperor realm, even someone in the Supreme Realm like him would have an involuntary stress response. Old Bei, we can't win. Bei Xia did not argue, because he knew it was the truth. He and Xuanming were at the 8th and 9th stages of the Supreme Realm, respectively. Together, they could kill those at the 1st or 2nd stage of the Heavenly Venerable Realm, and even contend with those at the 5th or 6th stage. But a half-emperor? That was an existence in another dimension entirely. Miss Jiang, Bei Xia suddenly turned his head to look at the white figure in the void. She had been killing beasts all the way and was now closest to the 9 Nether Kirin King. Less than 100 zhang away. Above the blazing demon forest, scorching waves of air surged like a tide. The Emperor Flame, radiating from the 9 Nether Kirin King, turned the sky for hundreds of zhang around into a deep blue, and the air was filled with a suffocating sense of oppression. The knees of the Xuanwu army and Beihu army soldiers gradually buckled. It wasn't out of fear, but because the pressure of the Half-Emperor realm was too heavy, so heavy that their bodies could not bear it. Had they not gone through countless slaughters that tempered their mental states, they would have likely collapsed to the ground by now. Meanwhile, Jiang Lingshan remained suspended in midair, her white clothes as pure as snow and her long hair fluttering, her sleeves remaining perfectly still despite the intense heat of the Emperor Flame. On her face, there was no fear, no tension. There wasn't even a hint of gravity. She looked at the mountain-like 9 Nether Kirin King, her amber eyes reflecting the blue light. That light danced in her pupils like 2 small flickers of fire. Then she smiled. The smile was very faint, just a slight upward curve of her lips and a gentle arch of her eyes. Interesting. Her voice was clear and light, scattered by the gale so that no one heard it. But the 9 Nether Kirin King heard it. Its blue pupils constricted slightly. It sensed an aura from this tiny human before it that made it feel uneasy. On the ground, Qianjue looked up at the white figure in the void, his hands clenched tightly into fists. His nails dug deep into his palms, drawing blood, but he was completely oblivious to it. His lips were pressed into a thin line, his face full of worry. He had seen her take action before. Previously, she had crushed 11 blood guards with a single palm, even forcing an expert at the 8th stage of the supreme heavenly venerable realm to flee in panic. But now, the opponent was a beast king of the half-emperor realm. Although he didn't know exactly how high xianxia cultivation was, he knew how difficult it was to step into the great emperor realm. And a young girl who his father emperor would decree to be his betrothed could not possibly be a great emperor. Therefore, he felt it was impossible for xianxia to defeat a beast king of the half-emperor realm. At that moment, Xuan Ming's voice came from afar, carrying an unprecedented urgency. "Miss Jiang, quickly take the imperial prince and leave this place. Obey, and I will cover the rear." Xianxia did not look back. She just hung there quietly, looking at the 9 Nether Kirin king with a faint smile on her lips. "Miss Jiang," Beixia also shouted, his voice as sharp as a blade. "This is no joke." At this moment, Qianjue finally moved. She turned her head and glanced at Qianjue. Then, she turned back and, toward the depths of the blazing demon forest, she flew forward. Seeing this, the 9 Nether Kirin king was enraged. This tiny human in snow-white clothes actually dared to advance instead of retreating against its pressure. Roar! The 9 Nether Kirin king let out a long roar to the heavens, the sound waves turning into physical ripples that expanded in all directions with it at the center. Wherever the sound waves passed, the air distorted, the ground cracked, and trees within 1,000 zhang were uprooted and swept into the air. Xianxia figure paused slightly in the sound waves, but that was all. She raised her right hand, fingers spread, and gave a light push toward the 9 Nether Kirin king. Boom! An invisible force surged from her palm, colliding with the 9 Nether Kirin king's sound waves. The moment the two forces collided, the world seemed to lose all sound. It wasn't because it was quiet, but because the sound was too loud, exceeding the limits of what ears could perceive. Then, a visible shockwave expanded in all directions from the point of collision, sending gravel, trees, and beast corpses on the ground flying. The shockwave swept over the jade carriage, causing it to shake violently. Even the 5 crimson flame golden lions actually prostrated themselves on the ground under this force. Qianjue, who was on the jade carriage, staggered. He narrowed his eyes, enduring the discomfort brought by the shockwave, and stared fixedly at the white figure in the void. She was still there. Her white clothes were still like snow, and her long hair was still fluttering. She was clearly unharmed. The 9 Nether Kirin king also hadn't expected that this tiny human could withstand its sonic attack. Its blue pupils constricted slightly, and then, whoosh! It moved its speed incredibly fast. Its 10-zhang-wide wings flapped violently, its massive body turning into a black meteor as it lunged straight at Xianxia. The horns on its forehead gathered blue light, which flew out as a 3-foot-long beam of fire. Swish! Xianxia did not meet the attack head-on. Her figure flickered, drifting dozens of yards to the left, narrowly avoiding the impact of the 9 Nether Kirin king. The 9 Nether Kirin king then lunged forward, intending to attack with its massive wings, but unexpectedly brushed past her. The gale stirred by the tips of its wings made her white clothes rustle loudly. The moment Xianxia evaded, her right hand had already condensed a silver-white light blade, slashing toward the 9 Nether Kirin king's left wing. Swoosh! The light blade sliced through the air, producing a sharp whistling sound. Sensing danger, the 9 Nether Kirin king abruptly retracted its wings. Its massive body rolled in midair, barely dodging that silver-white light blade. The light blade grazed its wing, leaving a shallow mark on the iron-hard feathers. It hadn't broken through the defense. However, a trace of wariness flashed in the 9 Nether Kirin king's eyes. This human's attack could actually wound it, although it was only a superficial wound. The fact that it could harm a half-emperor realm creature spoke volumes. Roar! The 9 Nether Kirin king stabilized itself and spread its wings once more. It opened its massive maw, and a ball of eerie blue light lit up deep in its throat. That was its natal emperor flame, a killing move that condensed most of its power. Jiang Lingshan looked at the ball of eerie blue light, her brow furrowing slightly. It wasn't fear. Rather, she glanced down at her white clothes. "It will get my clothes dirty," she said softly. Then, instead of meeting it head-on, she simply sank her body, dropping toward the ground. Seeing this, everyone's hearts leapt into their throats. From her perspective, it looked as if Jiang Lingshan had been knocked down by a fireball from the Nine Netherkiran King. "Miss Jiang, this is bad." Exclamations of alarm rose one after another. As for Qianjue, his mind went blank with a loud buzz. Watching that white figure fall from the void, he could no longer remain calm. "Go save her." His voice was hoarse, carrying a power that bordered on madness. Xuanming flickered and blocked the front of the jade carriage. His black iron-heavy armor was covered in beast blood, and the expression on his face was more solemn than ever before. "Imperial son, that is the Nine Netherkiran King. It will be futile for us to go, and we might even move." Qianjue's voice was as cold as eternal ice. Xuanming stared at him. He hadn't expected that this unremarkable ninth imperial son would actually cause a sliver of fear to rise in his heart at this moment. He opened his mouth. "Imperial son, I said move." Qianjue no longer looked at him and snatched the long axe from Wu Howiwei's hand. Before Wu Howiwei could react, the long axe had already been taken. He stared blankly at Qianjue, the flesh on his round face trembling and his lips quivering, unable to utter a single word. Qianjue raised the long axe, turned the back of the axe downward, and aimed it at the spine of one of the crimson flame golden lions, and struck down hard. Smack! A crisp sound rang out. Roar! Pain flared in the crimson flame golden lion, and it let out a roar. A bloody light flashed in its eyes as its four hooves violently churned the earth, pulling the jade carriage into a mad dash toward the blazing demon forest. The other four crimson flame golden lions were driven by the lead beast and exerted their strength simultaneously. The five giant beasts dragged the jade carriage like an arrow released from a bow, charging into the blazing demon forest. Xuanming stepped aside to avoid it. Standing there, he watched the direction the jade carriage was heading, the expression on his face complex to the extreme. Beixia walked over and stood beside him. The two looked at each other. Neither spoke, but in that single glance, there was helplessness, determination, and preparation for death. "Let's go," Beixia said. "MHM." Xuanming nodded. The two simultaneously transformed into two streaks of light, chasing after the jade carriage. The outskirts of the blazing demon forest had now become a dead zone. Tens of thousands of beast corpses lay scattered across the ground. The air was thick with the heavy scent of blood and the smell of charred sulfur. The ground was soaked in blood. Stepping on it felt soft, and soles would sink in half an inch. The crimson flame golden lion jade carriage raced through the remains. The hooves of the five giant beasts stepped into pools of blood, splashing up blossoms of gore. Qianjue stood on the jade carriage, one hand gripping the handrail and the other holding the long axe, his gaze fixed dead ahead. His loose hair was messy in the wind. The starry cloak was covered in splashed blood spots, and a few drops had even landed on his face, though he was completely oblivious to it. There was only one thought in his mind. That was, nothing must happen to Jiang Lingshan. Faster, even faster. He struck the back of the crimson flame golden lion again with the axe, and the giant beast roared as it accelerated. Along the way, they encountered no resistance. This was because the powerful beasts on the outskirts had already been slaughtered by Jiang Lingshan, and the remaining weak beasts had long since fled after sensing the aura of the crimson flame golden lions. The jade carriage rushed unimpeded into the depths of the blazing demon forest, with Xuanming and Beixia silently following closely in midair. A short while later, Qianjue finally found her. In the distance, a woman in snow-white clothes stood with her hands behind her back, her long hair flying. Her bare feet stepped on the charred ground. yet remained untainted by a single speck of dust. Not far in front of her, the originally tall and mighty Nether Qianjue king was actually prostrate on the ground. Its wings were folded at its sides, its head was lowered, and in those eerie blue pupils, the previous indifference and killing intent were gone, replaced by a kind of fear. At this moment, Qianjue only cared about Jiang Lingshine's safety as he drove the jade carriage over. But even before the crimson flame golden lion stopped, he jumped down from the jade carriage. His feet hit the charred ground, and he stumbled, nearly falling. But he didn't care about that, walking toward Jiang Lingxian in 3 steps made of 2. In the void, just as Xuan Ming and Bei Xiao were about to land, they grew anxious the moment they saw the 9 Nether Qianjue king. Their figures flashed, and they blocked the way in front of Qianjue. Imperial son, be careful. This 9 Nether Qianjue king is still alive. Both took out their weapons at the same time, intending to launch an attack, but were stopped by Jiang Lingshian. Wait! They looked at her with faces full of confusion, while Jiang Lingshian fixed her gaze on Qianjue. Are you all right? Qianjue's voice was somewhat raspy, carrying an unconcealable concern and tension. Jiang Lingshian looked at him. Seeing his blood-spattered robes, his anxious eyes, and his slightly trembling hands, she smiled. The smile was faint, just a slight upturn of the corners of her mouth and a shallow curve spreading across her eyes. But in that smile, there was a warmth she had never possessed before. What could possibly happen to me? Her voice was light and clear, like a spring flowing in a mountain valley. Then, she turned around and pointed at the prostrate 9 Nether Qianjue king. Here, let it be your mount from now on. Jiang Lingshian tilted her head, a flash of mischief crossing her amber eyes, before she continued. After all, your strength isn't high. With it around, it can serve as a guard in the future. W.A. what? A mount. W.H. what? A mount. Xuan Ming and Bei Xiao cried out in alarm, looking at the prostrate 9 Nether Qianjue king with expressions of utter disbelief. Qianjue also looked over and found that the beast was staring at him with its deep blue eyes, its gaze carrying a hint of grievance. This dignified half-emperor realm 9 Nether Qianjue king was currently like a tamed large dog, lying obediently on the ground, not even daring to breathe loudly. Qianjue opened his mouth in shock, wanting to say something, but for a moment he couldn't say anything at all. He looked back at Jiang Lingshian, then turned to the 9 Nether Qianjue king, then back to Jiang Lingshian, asking stutteringly, "You subdued it?" Jiang Lingshian thought for a moment. "It doesn't really count as subduing. Then what is it? It's just," she organized her words, "it couldn't beat me." And then it lay on the ground begging for mercy. At this point, she paused and added, "It's actually quite obedient." As soon as these words were spoken, Qianjue was directly stunned. This is a ferocious beast king. Hey, you call this obedient? If it were anyone else, they would have died 800 times over. On the side, the corners of Xuan Ming's and Bei Xiao mouths couldn't help but twitch. They were truly curious about just how high-miss Jiang cultivation was. A half-emperor realm king of ferocious beasts had actually been easily subdued by her. The two couldn't help but look at each other, their eyes filled with shock. Miss Jiang, if I may ask, what is your current cultivation?" Xuan Ming's words piqued the curiosity of the other 3, especially Qianjue. Although Jiang Lingshian was bound as his partner, the system had no data on her cultivation, so he wanted to know more than anyone else. Not only him, but even Wu Howiwei, who was far away on the jade carriage, looked at her with anticipation. Jiang Lingshian glanced at them and finally gave Qianjue a slight smile, responding with only 2 words. "Very strong." Her answer made Xuan Ming's face burn with embarrassment, because he only now remembered that he had committed a major taboo. If this had been any other great powerhouse, he might have already been killed and his path ended. Xuan Ming opened his mouth apologetically, wanting to say something, but seeing that she didn't mind, he could only let it go. He turned to look at the 9 Nether Qianjue king, and it was also looking at him. Man and beast met eyes. In those deep blue pupils, Xuanming saw his own reflection and also saw a hint of disdain. It was as if it was saying, "You human idiot, what are you looking at?" If it were a ferocious beast of the same realm, Xuanming estimated he would have slapped it to death long ago. Unfortunately, it was a half-emperor that he couldn't afford to provoke right now, so he could only turn his gaze to Beixia. The two looked at each other, both seeing the same thought in each other's eyes. This Miss Jiang's strength is terrifyingly powerful. A half-emperor Rel 9 Nether Kirin king, subdued just like that. Beixia took a deep breath, suppressing the shock in his heart, and turned to look at Qianjue. The latter was still standing there. He remembered how he had rushed over anxiously to save her just now, almost changing his plans for Jiang Lingshan to claim his divine king realm cultivation early. But the result? Not only did she not need him to save her, but she also conveniently subdued a half-emperor realm out for him. Qianjue took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. Jiang Lingshan was tilting her head to look at him, her amber eyes carrying a hint of curiosity as she asked, "What's wrong? Do you not like it? Although it's a bit weak, it runs quite fast." Hearing this, the 9 Nether Kirin king's massive body trembled slightly, and it let out a low whimper, a sound filled with immense grievance. Weak? The dignified 9 Nether Kirin king, the beast king of the blazing demon forest, a half-emperor realm existence, was called weak by a little human girl? But thinking about how it had been abused, it was like a deflated ball, thinking helplessly to itself, "Fine, you're strong. You're amazing. This king can't afford to mess with you." Looking at the 9 Nether Kirin king's aggrieved look, and then at Jiang Lingshan's matter-of-fact expression, Qianjue suddenly laughed. This wasn't a bitter laugh, but a heartfelt, relaxed one. He then replied to Jiang Lingshan, "I like it. I like it very much." Jiang Lingshan nodded, then turned and patted the 9 Nether Kirin king's massive head. "Did you hear that? He said he likes you. Hurry up and hand over your natal slave seal." The 9 Nether Kirin king looked up, glancing at Qianjue with its deep blue eyes. In that gaze there was helplessness, grievance, a hint of resignation, and a hint of curiosity. Immediately, a red starlight emerged from between its brows. Buzz! The starlight entered Qianjue's sea of consciousness. In the next moment, he could feel that with just a single thought, he could obliterate the 9 Nether Kirin king. He met the 9 Nether Kirin king's gaze, smiled, and reached out to pat its massive head as well. "From now on, you will be this prince's steed." The 9 Nether Kirin king snorted, exhaling a blast of hot air as a response. Xuanming and Beixia stood behind them, watching this scene. The former whispered, "Old Bei, am I dreaming?" Beixia replied coldly, "Even if it is a dream, you won't be able to wake up." Xuanming. Only then did Wu Haoiwei crawl down from the jade carriage. His 200-pound frame stumbled over, and seeing the 9 Nether Kirin king up close, his damned legs couldn't help but go soft, and he knelt directly. A half-emperor. The fat on his round face trembled violently, and his lips quivered. It took a long time before he could squeeze out a complete sentence. "Divine Son, you're really going to soar to the heavens." Qianjue glanced back at him and said with a smile, "It's not soaring to the heavens. It's time to go home." He turned to look at Jiang Lingshan. The afterglow of the setting sun filtered through the clouds above the blazing demon forest, coating her white dress with a faint golden edge. Her long hair fluttered gently in the wind, and her amber eyes reflected the light of the sunset, as well as his reflection. "Let's go. I'll take you to the Divine Dynasty to have some fun." Regarding Qianjue's words, Jiang Lingshan didn't speak, but only nodded slightly. Behind them, the 9 Nether Kirin king slowly stood up, its wings spreading out to blot out the sun. Xuanming and Beixia stood on either side, guarding the jade carriage. Wu Haoiwei stumbled onto the jade carriage. Once he was seated firmly, his round face was full of relief, and he opened his mouth with a silly grin. This trip was really damn exciting. Just as Di Qianjue and Jiang Lingshan stepped into the jade carriage, ding! In Di Qianjue's mind, a crisp mechanical sound rang out. His whole body jolted, detected the host partner's care and protection. Suppressed and killed God Realm Blood Guards X11 for you. Slaughtered ferocious beasts XN, and gifted the host a half-Emperor Realm Mount X1. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 5,000 soft rice points. Current soft rice points, 15,000 points. Die Qianjue is instantly widened. 5,000 soft rice points? He remembered that the 10,000 from a beginner's gift pack hadn't been used yet. Adding this 5,000, wouldn't that mean his task of earning soft rice points within 10 days was complete? Ding! The system has unlocked a brand new feature. The lucky draw. Each lucky draw attempt requires 1,000 soft rice points. Prize pool item tiers are divided into Spirit, Profound, God, Emperor, and Epic. The first 10 consecutive draw guarantees an Emperor tier reward. Does the host wish to draw? Die Qianjue Froze in place. A lucky draw? He had played countless gacha games in his past life and knew full well the value of a guaranteed 10 consecutive draw. A guaranteed Emperor tier reward. What kind of prize would that be? His hands trembled slightly, and he almost shouted, "Draw," but he held back. Because he suddenly thought of a question. System, how are soft rice points obtained? Is it true that as long as she contributes to me, I can earn them? Yes. Soft rice point acquisition mechanism. When the bound target, Jiang Lingshan, develops positive emotions toward the host, care, protection, contribution, gifting, etc., the system will automatically calculate and issue soft rice points based on the significance of the action. Simply put, the better she treats you, the more soft rice points you get. Die Qianjue fell silent. He associated this with the fact that Jiang Lingshan had saved him and gifted him a mount, which earned him 5,000 soft rice points. The pattern was obvious. As long as Jiang Lingshan was willing to contribute to him, he could win without lifting a finger. Thinking of this, the corners of Di Qianjue's mouth couldn't help but slowly curl up, then curl up more and more, until they finally reached his ears. This system was practically tailor-made for him. He used to think the name soft rice points was a bit embarrassing, but now... Embarrassing? That didn't exist. This was called having skill. It seemed he would have to hide the extraction of his Divine King realm cultivation from Jiang Lingshan. Otherwise, future soft rice points wouldn't be so easy to get. System, don't draw yet. Di Qianjue had a plan, so he responded to the system in his mind. Understood. The lucky draw feature is available at any time. The host may decide when to use it. Di Qianjue withdrew his thoughts and looked up at Jiang Lingshan. Jiang Lingshan was tilting her head, watching him with a hint of curiosity in her amber eyes. What are you smiling about? Di Qianjue quickly put away his smile and said solemnly, Nothing, I just think. The mount you gifted me is quite majestic. Jiang Lingshan nodded. It is indeed quite majestic. It's just a little ugly. Hearing this, Di Qianjue was speechless, feeling that Jiang Lingshan aesthetic was completely different from his own. He thought the Nine Nether Kirin King was majestic and domineering, the ideal, cool mount for a man. The journey back was calm and peaceful, but everyone knew this peace was only temporary. Because Yi Wuchun had run away, the Yi family would not let it go, and the Murung family even less so. The storm was still to come. But for now, Di Qianjue didn't want to think about these things. He leaned against the soft couch in the crimson flame golden lion jade carriage, holding a cup of tea in his hand, watching the seascape outside the window. Jiang Lingshan sat opposite him, also holding a cup of tea, sipping it in small mouthfuls. Wu Haoiwei sat in the corner, his round face still showing the joy of surviving a disaster, as he hugged a plate of pastries and ate voraciously. Imperial son, Wu Haoiwei said with his mouth stuffed full of pastries, speaking indistinctly. Do you think that Yi Wuchun will go back and complain to his father? Di Qianjue took a sip of tea and said indifferently, He will. Then will the Yi family send someone even more formidable? They will. Then, how about I go back gather the Lutian army and wipe them out directly. No need. Qianjue set down his teacup, glanced at him, and then looked at Jiang Lingshan opposite. The latter was focused on drinking her tea, as if she hadn't heard their conversation. Then Qianjue smiled. With Miss Jiang by our side, what do we have to fear? As he said this, Qianjue added in his heart, if you go and wipe them out, how am I supposed to farm soft rice points? Wu Haoiwei was stunned, then looked at Jiang Lingshan, then back at Qianjue, and said with a sudden realization, oh, I get it now, Imperial son, you are eating soft rice? Qianjue's smile froze for a moment. Cough, cough. He almost choked on the tea he had just sipped, then feigned anger and glared at Wu Haoiwei. Do you even know how to talk? This is called cultivating, a powerful alliance. Wu Haoiwei shrank his neck and muttered softly, it's clearly that you are weak and she is strong. Wu Haoiwei, I'll shut up. I'll shut up. Jiang Lingshan looked up, glanced at Qianjue, then at Wu Haoiwei, a trace of confusion flashing in her eyes. What does eating soft rice mean? She asked. Qianjue. Wu Haoiwei. The two exchanged a speechless look and spoke simultaneously. It's nothing. It's just a type of food. Jiang Lingshan tilted her head, clearly not quite believing it, but she didn't press the matter. She lowered her head and continued drinking her tea. Qianjue breathed a sigh of relief and glared fiercely at Wu Haoiwei. Wu Haoiwei shrank into the corner, burying his face in his pastries, not daring to look up. Middle Divine Realm, a border city of the Taishu Divine Dynasty. The city walls were 1,000 zhang high, like a canopy connecting to the sky, looking grand and magnificent. The city gates were heavily guarded, with a sentry every 3 meters and a patrol every 5 meters on the walls. On the massive walls, there were tens of thousands of soldiers, all clad in heavy black iron armor, exuding terrifying killing intent. They were clearly iron-blooded warriors who had experienced countless slaughters. At this moment, sounds of footsteps treading on the air came from the distant horizon, along with terrifying beastly might. Rumble! On the city wall, a soldier looked up and saw 5 crimson-flame golden lions pulling a jade carriage, and he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Because he recognized this carriage. In the Taishu Divine Dynasty, only the imperial son could ride in such a jade carriage. Furthermore, a few days ago, Marquis Qianjue and Marquis Hewei had escorted the 9th imperial son out of the divine realm. This jade carriage must be them returning. But just as he was about to order the city gates to be opened, he saw a beast as large as a small mountain flapping its wings and approaching behind the jade carriage. His pupils shrank sharply, and he shouted to the soldiers on the wall, "A ferocious beast is attacking. Prepare to engage the enemy." In an instant, the tens of thousands of soldiers were overflowing with killing intent, all entering a state of combat readiness, holding spears and drawing bows with arrows nocked. But just as the city defense general was about to order the arrows to be released, a deep, resonant voice came from outside the city. "Stop!" Immediately after, a white light flew over a high speed. Swish! The white light manifested into a figure outside the 1,000-zhang city wall. This person was none other than Bei Xia, riding a silver-winged white tiger. The city defense general naturally recognized him and rose into the air with a guarded expression. "Marquis Hewei, why are you bringing a ferocious beast upon your return? Could it be?" But before he could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by Bei Xia. "God King Malian, this ferocious beast is the 9 Nether Kirin King." "What? The 9 Nether Kirin King?" God King Malian's body trembled, and a look of terror appeared on his face. As the city defense general, he naturally knew of the 9 Nether Kirin King's power. He watched Bei Xia vigilantly. "Marquis Hewei, could it be that you really—" "Insolent!" Bei Xia shouted in a fit of rage. Not only did this Mo lion interrupt him, but he even dared to suspect him of colluding with the ferocious beasts. He stared at the other man with a sharp gaze and said coldly, The 9 Nether Kirin King is a mount gifted to the 9th imperial son by the successor of the monarch Xianxia. This marquis is following the orders of the imperial lord to welcome Miss Jiang. Even the imperial son is inside the jade carriage. Do you intend to commit insubordination? Mo Lion looked at the approaching jade carriage and the 9 Nether Kirin King with a suspicious gaze. He did not dare to make a decision at this moment, deeply fearing that Marquis Huwei had betrayed the human race. If he opened the city gates, the countless humans within the city would suffer. This was the 9 Nether Kirin King. Once it entered the city, he would be a sinner for all eternity in the eyes of the human race. However, just as he was hesitating, Xuanming arrived riding the Chaos Dragon Turtle. God King Mo Lion, rest assured, this Marquis and Old Bay are indeed acting on orders. Not only is the imperial son in the jade carriage, but also Wu Howiwei, the son of Heavenly King Wuji. Could it be that you still suspect that all of us are colluding with the ferocious beasts? Upon hearing this, Mo Lian's gaze shifted back to the jade carriage pulled by the crimson flame golden lion. Just then, Wu Howiwei stepped out, his large belly protruding, and began to berate him with a dark expression. You bastard, if you don't open the city gates and delay the imperial son's journey, this lord will return with the Luqian army to wipe you out. Wu Howiwei looked like a pile of fat, but when he acted ruthlessly, combined with the fleshy folds on his face, he actually had quite an imposing aura. When God King Mo Lion saw him, he realized it really was this butcher. Although his own cultivation was higher than the others, the boy had a father with heaven-defying strength. Thus, he hurriedly accompanied him with a smile. Haha, a misunderstanding. Two marquises and young Master Yue. This subordinate was also concerned for the safety of the citizens in the city. I will open the gates immediately. Look at that pathetic display. You just had to make Fat Lord get angry. Wu Howiwei grumbled as he returned to the jade carriage. Meanwhile, Beishia's expression was extremely cold as he watched Mo Lian's fawning behavior. If I weren't in a hurry to return and report, this marquis would definitely teach him a lesson. Seeing this, Xuanming smiled. All right, Old Bay, he wasn't entirely in the wrong. After all, we have that big fellow following us. If it were you, you wouldn't dare to open the city gates easily either. But he dared to suspect this marquis of colluding with the beasts. Yet as soon as that kid came out, he became so sycophantic. You and I are both among the 5 great war marquises. Could it be that we have less prestige in the military than that kid? Beishia clenched his fists, feeling truly stifled. He was, after all, the commander of the White Tiger Legion. Yet at this beast-infested border, he was actually less influential than a green brat like Wu Howiwei. Hee. Don't forget, whose subordinate general is Mo Lion? As soon as these words were spoken, Beishia's expression froze slightly. Then his clenched fists slowly relaxed, and he spoke no more. All right, the gates are open. Let's head in. With that, Xuanming led the group toward the ground. Beishia shook his head helplessly and followed suit. A small interlude ended with Wu Howiwei intervention, but throughout the process, Qianjue never showed his face. He knew that even if he was the imperial son, with his current age and strength, he had no voice when facing these frontier generals. Rather than coming out to bicker, it was better to let them resolve it themselves. Inside Taihu Hall of the Imperial Palace, Qianjue sat regally on the dragon throne. Today he was not wearing his deep black dragon robe, but had changed into informal attire. A black brocade robe embroidered with gold thread, a white jade belt around his waist, and a purple gold crown on his head. Though it was casual wear, it still felt as majestic as a mountain on him. Empress Yue Shunyi sat on the phoenix throne beside him, wearing a moon-white phoenix robe and a phoenix crown. She looked graceful and luxurious, a motherly model for the world. At this time, Qianjue entered Taihu Hall with Jiang Lingshan and bowed. Your son greets Father Emperor and Mother Empress. Jiang Lingshan also followed with a bow, her posture elegant and neither supercilious nor obsequious. Jiang Lingshan greets the Imperial Lord and Imperial Empress. Di Qingdian gaze fell upon Jiang Lingshan, a flash of satisfaction appearing in his eyes. At the same time, he felt deeply gratified that his son, whom the ministers looked down upon, was able to bring her back. His gaze was extremely shrewd, and he saw Jiang Lingshan's extraordinary nature at a glance. It wasn't just her cultivation, but that innate, completely natural temperament. He knew that it wasn't something cultivated later in life, but something she was born with. Just like his wife, Empress Yue Shunyi, she was born with a noble destiny. Good, good, good. Di Qingdian said good 3 times, his voice booming and echoing through Taihu Hall. Girl Jiang, you've had a long and tiring journey. Jiang Lingshan shook her head. It wasn't tiring. That brat Qianjue didn't bully you, did he? Jiang Lingshan thought for a moment. No, he can't beat me. Di Qingdian was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter. Huh? He laughed so hard he rocked back and forth, the sound shaking the candle flames in the hall. Good. It's good that he can't beat you. This brat hasn't liked cultivating since he was young, spending all day maintaining his image as a gentle, humble, and polite young master. I was just worrying that no one could keep him in check. Now that Miss Jiang is here, I can rest easy. Di Qianjue stood to the side, his face turning dark. Father Emperor, can you please leave your son some dignity? Empress Yue Shunyi covered her mouth and chuckled, her gaze shifting between Di Qianjue and Jiang Lingshan. Her eyes were full of the satisfaction of a mother-in-law looking at her daughter-in-law. Miss Jiang, Empress Yue Shunyi spoke, her voice as gentle as jade. Are you accustomed to things after leaving the island? Jiang Lingshan thought for a moment. It's all right. It's just that the people in the outside world are a bit complicated. Oh, Empress Yue Shunyi's brow furrowed slightly as she exchanged a look with Di Qingdian. Then her gaze fell back on Jiang Lingshan. How are the people in the outside world complicated? Jiang Lingshan wasn't pretentious and spoke about the assassination attempt outside Qianjue Island and the encounter with the Yi family's obstruction in the blazing demon forest. For a moment, the atmosphere in Taihu Hall became extremely heavy. Di Qingdian's invisible pressure made it difficult for Di Qianjue and the others to breathe. Oomph! What a Yi family! Di Qingdian's cold voice rang out in the hall. After a pause, he continued. As for the attack outside Qianjue Island you mentioned, it should be the work of the Murung family. Miss Jiang, rest assured, I will definitely give you an account for this matter. There's no need. I'm Yufine. On the contrary, they were all killed by me. Jiang Lingshan acted as if it were nothing. But as the Taishu imperial lord, how could Di Qingdian ignore such a thing happening to his son and future daughter-in-law? No, the Yi family and the Murung family must. All right, the child just left the island. Don't scare her. Empress Yue Shunyi, who was beside him, interrupted him and then spoke to Jiang Lingshan with a gentle expression. Miss Jiang, this is your first time leaving the island. Don't think about other things. For the next few days, let Qianjue take you around the Divine Dynasty and taste the delicacies of the outside world. At the mention of delicacies, a flash of excitement appeared in Jiang Lingshan's eyes. Really, seeing her like this, Empress Yue Shunyi smiled, her smile like a spring breeze. Naturally, there are many delicacies in this outside world. Indeed, let Qianjue take you for a good tour in the coming days. Di Qingdian also chimed in, the coldness on his face vanishing, replaced by the warmth of an elder. Jiang Lingshan looked at Di Qianjue with anticipation, and the latter nodded. All right, but you've been fatigued from the journey these past few days. Rest for a day tomorrow, and I'll take you the day after. Empress Yue Shunyi, on the Phoenix throne, was very satisfied with her son's answer, and then she looked at Di Qingdian. Understanding her meaning, Di Qingdian spoke, Qianjue, I have already ordered people to prepare Miss Jiang residence in the palace. It is the Lanyway Pavilion right next to your Qianjue Palace. Di Qianjue heart stirred. Lanyway Pavilion, that's perfect. He had been worried that his father emperor would arrange for her to stay directly in Qianjue Palace. Otherwise, he would have no privacy at all. He then hurriedly replied, your son obeys. Di Qingdian nodded in satisfaction, his gaze moving from Di Qianjue to another person in the hall. Wu Haoiwei was cowering behind a pillar, his 200-caddy frame trying its best to hide, but half of his belly was still exposed. Di Qingdian gaze darkened. Wu Haoiwei. This call made Wu Haoiwei's body tremble violently, and the fat on his round face shook thrice. He poked his head out from behind the pillar and squeezed out a smile that looked worse than crying. Imperial Lord, why are you not staying in the barracks and instead running over here? Di Qingdian's voice was not loud, but his imposing manner, which commanded respect without anger, made Wu Haoiwei's legs go weak. He dropped to his knees with a thud, his round face pressed against the floor, his voice trembling. Your servant. What, your servant? Speak. Wu Haoiwei swallowed hard and snuck a glance at Di Qianjue, but the latter pretended not to see him. Wu Haoiwei withdrew his gaze and gritted his teeth, saying, Your servant missed the imperial prince, so I left my post without authorization to come and welcome him. Missed him? Di Qingdian raised an eyebrow. Since when did you become so close with Di Qianjue? Your servant has always been close with the imperial prince. Di Qingdian stared at him for 3 breaths. Wu Haoiwei's forehead remained pressed to the floor as cold sweat trickled down his cheeks. Then, Di Qingdian smiled. All right, get up. His voice carried a hint of helplessness. I know you accompanied Jur to Xiaoyou Island. In consideration of you protecting him along the way, I will not punish you this time. If you dare to leave your post without reporting again, I will have your father break your legs. Wu Haoiwei felt as if he had been granted an amnesty. He scrambled to his feet and kowtowed like a garlic-crushing pestle. Thank you, Imperial Lord. Thank you, Imperial Lord. Di Qingdian waved his hand, not bothering to look at him again. Wu Haoiwei retreated to the side and let out a long breath, the cold sweat on his round face still wet. He stuck a glance at Di Qianjue, as if to say, Imperial Prince, I've been good to you, haven't I? Risking punishment just to accompany you. This little gesture of his naturally did not escape Di Qingdian's eyes, but he did not pursue it and instead said to Di Qianjue, Let's stop here for today. Jur, you take Miss Jiang to Lanyway Pavilion first and take good care of her. Yes, Father Emperor, this son will take his leave. Di Qianjue and Jiang Lingshan bowed and withdrew, and Wu Haoiwei hurriedly spoke up, Your servant will also take his leave. Then he followed closely behind them as they exited Taihu Hall. Di Qingdian watched their retreating figures, his gaze instantly turning cold. Damn the Yi family, daring to openly oppose the Taishu Divine Dynasty and even attempting to sabotage this marriage alliance. Good, very good. Beside him, Empress Yue's shiny gaze lifted slightly, a fierce expression appearing in her eyes. It's not just the Yi family. The Murong family sent people to assassinate Jiang Lingshan. They want to frame the Taishu Divine Dynasty. Such behavior truly deserves death. Di Qingdian did not want his wife to worry about these trivial matters, so he couldn't help but chuckle. They're merely a bunch of clowns. The claws of the 5 great clans in the imperial capital are already being cleared out, but at this point, Di Qingdian slowly stood up, his deep eyes gazing into the void outside Taihu Hall, a hint of reluctance in his expression. Those vassal imperial dynasties and empires in the Middle Divine Realm were infiltrated by the clans tens of thousands of years ago and are now deeply rooted. If we forcibly eradicate them, it will inevitably involve countless human lives. When that time comes, the human race will fall into chaos, and the alien races will certainly seize the opportunity to invade. Empress Yue's Shani stood up straight from the Phoenix throne, looking unwilling. Are we just going to let them do whatever they want within the Taishu Divine Dynasty? They dared to attack Jur openly this time. Does that mean in the future they will dare to storm into Taihu Hall and wipe out all 9 of my children? Or even make you and me their prisoners? I naturally will not let that happen. Previously, my father emperor did not restrict them from expanding their influence, because he remembered their contributions to the human race. Besides, how could this group of ants shake the foundation that my imperial clan has built over hundreds of thousands of years? Seeing him say this, Empress Yue's shunny expression improved slightly. Then what solution do you have? Qianjue's lips curled up slightly. Don't they want to devour the 4 great imperial dynasties to oppose my Taishu Divine Dynasty? Then I will stir up the waters of the Middle Divine Realm even more. What do you want to do? This expression of Qianjue gave Empress Yue Shunyi an uneasy feeling. Qianjue is now 18. It is time for him to go out. I disagree. Empress Yue Shunyi interrupted before Qianjue could finish. Zhu'er has not yet reached the age of adulthood, and his cultivation is only at the Divine Sea realm. If you send him out now to fight those man-eating old fogies of the clans, isn't that sending him to his death? You also said that the clans are deeply rooted in the imperial dynasties and have experts at the emperor realm. With just his little bit of cultivation, where is the chance of winning? If you insist on this, then I can only take Zhu'er back to the Yue clan. You can play with this huge divine dynasty yourself. I'm done with it. Empress Yue Shunyi sat back down on the phoenix throne, fuming. Upon hearing that his wife wanted to return to her maiden family, Qianjue hurriedly went up to coax her. Oh, Zhu'er is also my child. How could I let my own child go to his death? The reason I am sending him is, first, his low cultivation can serve to numb the clans. Second, Zhu'er has stayed in the imperial palace year-round, and with our protection, he cannot grow. If I were to arrange for Wu Dao or Wu Xin to go, it would surely make the clans alert. Don't forget, besides that half-emperor mount, Zhu'er now has the monarch Xianxia, direct disciple, by his side. When the time comes, I will arrange for a few more experts to guard him, so safety will absolutely not be an issue. And this is also a test for him. If he can truly stir up these muddy waters and disrupt the clan's plans, giving him prestige in the imperial dynasty, those guys will very likely submit to Zhu'er. By then, Zhu'er will have his own influence, and with the connection to the monarch Xianxia, he will not be like before, hiding himself for fear of being harmed by his siblings. Even if Qianjue paused, his expression somewhat complex as he looked at Empress Yue Shunyi. If those 9 little brats really fight for the imperial throne, at least Zhu'er will have the means to protect himself, won't he? He said so much in one breath. How could Empress Yue Shunyi not understand? She knew that Qianjue wanted to use the clans to temper Qianjue, wanting him to have the ability to stand on his own in the future. As for eradicating the clans and suppressing the internal turmoil of the human race, that was just a pretext. Not to mention Qianjue, even she, as the empress, had countless ways to settle it, not to mention that they had the deep foundation of the imperial clan behind them. But when she thought about her 9 children potentially fighting for the imperial throne in the future because of the power in their hands, she felt very upset, and tears flowed down involuntarily. If they really end up killing each other for your position in the future, I would rather Zhu'er remain as unremarkable as he is now, so that at least he could live a peaceful life. What Empress Yue Shunyi said was also something Qianjue did not want to see, but born into an imperial family, some things were not within his control, especially when it came to wielding the supreme authority of the human race. But there was one thing he could guarantee: the safety of his offspring. After all, he was not a mortal emperor with only 100 years of lifespan, leaving them to kill each other after his death. Qianjue let out a long breath and looked at Empress Yue Shunyi with a firm expression. Rest assured, with me here, not one of them will have any trouble. Really. Empress Yue Shunyi looked at him with teary eyes, and Qianjue pulled her into his embrace. When have I ever lied to you? Lanyway Pavilion was built entirely of white jade, with upturned eaves and corners, exquisite and delicate. In front of the building were planted several 10,000-year-old plum trees. Although it was not the flowering season, the branches and leaves were lush and vibrant green. Behind the building was a forest of emerald bamboo, the bamboo shadows dancing. When the wind blew, it rustled like a low, humming melody. The furnishings inside the pavilion were simple yet elegant: sandalwood tables and chairs, a white jade screen, a celadon vase, and on the wall hung a landscape painting depicting the scenery of Xiaoyu Island. Jiang Lingshan stood before that painting, looking at it for a long time. "This is something master-painted," she said softly. Qianjue stood behind her, not saying anything. After all, he had never been to Xiaoyu Island, so he wasn't sure. "What did she paint this?" Jiang Lingshan asked, as if asking Qianjue, and yet also as if talking to herself. Qianjue didn't know who had painted it, let alone how long ago it was done, but the painting looked old and weathered. He thought for a moment, probably many years ago. Jiang Lingshan nodded and said nothing more. Qianjue stood with her for a while, then said, "You have been tired these past few days, so rest first. I live in the adjacent Qianjue Palace. If you need anything, call me at any time." Jiang Lingshan turned around and looked at him, the bamboo shadows outside the window reflecting in her amber eyes. "Okay." Qianjue walked out of Lanyway Pavilion and looked back once. Jiang Lingshan stood by the window, her white clothes like snow, her long hair draped down, gazing at the emerald bamboo forest outside. The afterglow of the setting sun filtered through the bamboo leaves and fell upon her, gilding her with a faint layer of gold. He watched for a moment, then turned and walked toward Qianjue Palace. The night was like water, and moonlight spilled in through the lattice windows of Qianjue Palace, casting mottled light and shadows on the floor. Qianjue sat cross-legged on a meditation cushion with the system panel floating before him, its ghostly blue light illuminating his face. He had already bathed and changed into clean, moon-white undergarments. His long hair was half dry, draped over his shoulders, emitting a faint scent of sandalwood. Bai Yao and Bei Ling had just retired, and he focused his attention on the system panel. Host, Qianjue Cultivation, Divine Sea Realm Mid-Stage, Unclaimed. 9th Stage Divine King, Technique. Myriad Dao Convergence Art, Imperial Clan Inherited Technique, Soft Rice Points. 15,000 draws, 0 partner binding target. Jiang Lingshan, sole successor to the Monarch Xiaoyu. Cultivation. Mount. 9 Nether Kirin King, possesses the bloodlines of the primordial Kirin and the 9 Nether Phoenix. Holds potential for atavism, cultivation, half-emperor realm. After Qianjue saw the words 9th Stage Divine King on the panel, he ignored the information below it, the corners of his mouth curling up slightly. The Divine King Realm. To jump directly from the mid-stage of the Divine Sea Realm to the 9th Stage Divine King. In between, there were the Guan, Dharma Manifestation, Heavenly Human, Deification, and Divine Lord stages, as well as the God King stage he was about to enter. That was a full 6 major realms. Such a leap was impossible for an ordinary person, yet he was about to become the first person in history to achieve it. Immediately, his brows furrowed slightly, because he remembered something. System, I have heard that after entering the deification stage, one must undergo a tribulation for every major realm promoted. And these 3 heavenly tribulations, deification, Divine Lord, and God King, are rumored to be stronger than the last. He paused, his tone filled with a hint of worry. Shouldn't you have arranged a heaven-defying physique for this prince? Something like a chaos physique, holy physique, or divine physique? Any one of them would do. I certainly don't want to fail the tribulation, only for you to vanish into smoke along with me. How could the system not understand Qianjue's clumsy request? Ding host, I thank you, but please do not doubt my ability. You must know, the system is the path to invincibility. Why need a rule-bound body? Qianjue felt a bit embarrassed to have his thoughts seen through, but when he heard the last 2 sentences, he raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? It means that even if the host only has a mortal body, this system can still allow you to reach the pinnacle of the universe. Moreover, the mortal body is the most unadorned and pure cultivation body of the human race. Those humans with powerful physiques may seem gifted, but they are actually restricted by rules. Their path of cultivation is defined by an upper limit from the very beginning. And the mortal body has no upper limit. Qianjue was stunned. No upper limit? In the fantasy novels he read in his past life, weren't the protagonists all possessed of heaven-defying physiques? Chaos physique, ancient holy physique, indestructible body. Every name was incredibly cool. How did it come to this, with the system actually promoting the mortal body? He asked tentatively, "System, are you pulling my leg? How come I heard that people with special physiques cultivate thousands of times faster than ordinary people? Fast cultivation speed does not equal going far. Moreover, what does the host need a physique for? With this system here, do you need to cultivate?" Qianjue thought about it. That was true. He had the system. As long as he had soft rice points, cultivation was within his grasp. Look at this. A starter pack just smashed him into the Divine King realm. Moreover, he now had a mount at the Half-Emperor realm, and Jiang Lingshan, who could suppress a Half-Emperor. Physiques, or whatever, didn't really seem that important. He nodded slightly. Fine, then what about divine abilities and treasures? I heard that when undergoing a tribulation, one needs various magical treasures for protection and divine abilities to resist. I am a god king, yet I don't even know a decent divine ability, and I have no treasures. Previously, I only practiced minor techniques from the imperial clan's introductory level. How can I pass the tribulation? Ding. If the host wants divine abilities and treasures, you can obtain them through the lucky draw, but this system does not recommend you draw now. After all, once the host claims the cultivation, you will instantly achieve the Divine King realm. A God King, undergoing the deification tribulation and divine lord tribulation, even without divine abilities or treasures, can withstand them. As for the final God King tribulation, the system paused, its tone seeming to carry a hint of deep meaning. That will be the best time for the host to temper your physical body. Qianjue narrowed his eyes. You mean, let me withstand it with my physical body? Yes. The heavenly tribulation is both destruction and rebirth. If you survive it, your physical strength will far exceed that of cultivators at the same level. If you don't survive, what happens if I don't survive? Rest assured, host, the system will not let the host die. At least, not let the host die so comfortably. Qianjue. Why did that sound so unreliable? He took a deep breath and decided not to dwell on it anymore. Fine, then let's undergo the tribulation. Qianjue got up and walked out of the bedchamber. The night breeze brushed against his face, carrying a faint scent of osmanthus. The moonlight was like water, spilling onto the bluestone ground in the courtyard of Qianjue Palace, creating a silvery white glow. Among them, a giant ferocious beast, resembling a Kirin but with wings on its back and covered in ghostly blue flames, was dozing off. Yes, this was none other than the 9 Nether Kirin king that Qianjue had brought back. He arrived before it, and the 9 Nether Kirin king's ghostly blue pupils slowly opened. Seeing it was its ant-like master, it prepared to continue dozing. But Qianjue reached out and patted its head. Go, take this prince to find an uninhabited place in the middle divine realm. I need to undergo a tribulation and cannot let others find out. Tribulation? The 9 Nether Kirin king, who had wanted to continue dozing, thought it had misheard. What kind of tribulation could this human, who was only at the Divine Sea realm, possibly undergo? He was still several major realms away from the deification stage. Could this kid have developed delusions? At this moment, its lazy eyes actually revealed a hint of disdain, as if saying, "Ants really do make a lot of trouble. If you want to take me out to show off, just say so. You don't have to pull all this nonsense." Although it was extremely unwilling in its heart, that woman in white was too strong, and it had signed a master-servant contract with this ant, so it could only wobble to its feet. Qianjue climbed onto its back. Knowing that his current cultivation level had not been acknowledged yet, he spoke up. When I return safely from the tribulation, I will treat you to a good meal. The 9 Nether Kirin king heard this and turned its head to look, clearly not believing what the other said, treating it merely as empty promises. Immediately, it flapped its wings and soared into the sky. The night wind whistled in his ears. Qianjue gripped the 9 Nether Kirin King's pair of horns tightly, his long hair dancing wildly in the wind. Under the moonlight, the figures of the man and the beast streaked across the sky like a meteor, vanishing into the night in an instant. Qianjue thought that going out at night was the safest option, but he did not expect that the moment the Half-Emperor Realm 9 Nether Kirin King flapped its wings to fly high, it had already been sensed by Di Qingdian. At this time, inside Tai Hall, Di Qingdian sat upright on the throne. He frowned slightly and put down the jade slip in his hand. What is this kid doing leaving the palace in the middle of the night? As soon as his voice fell, a black shadow appeared in the hall, kneeling on one knee. Your Majesty, should I arrange for the Heavenly Dragon Guard to secretly protect the 9th Prince? Di Qingdian pondered for a moment, then waved his hand. Forget it. Qianjue has been quite stifled in the palace all these years. Let's give him some space. After all, with that ferocious beast around, if any great emperor in the Middle Divine Realm makes a move, I will be able to sense it immediately. Understood. The black shadow responded and vanished on the spot, as if it had never appeared. On the throne, Di Qingdian fell into deep thought again. After a few breaths, his lips parted slightly. Qianjue's intellect has been different from ordinary people since childhood. Even if his aptitude is mediocre, the feeling he gives this emperor is that his future will absolutely not be weaker than Wu Dao and the others. As the master of the Taishu Divine Dynasty, even with his heaven-defying methods, Di Qingdian could not truly see through his youngest son. He remained silent for a long time, then let out a long sigh. I hope the step I have taken can allow you to overturn the world's perception of you. On the other side, Di Qianjue rode the 9 Nether Kirin King. Its speed was extremely fast, and in less than an incense stick's time, it flew out of the imperial city's range and arrived at a desolate mountain range. This place was called Soul-Severing Ridge. It is said that in the ancient era, 2 powerhouses of the Emperor Realm fought here, shaking the heavens and earth, causing the extinction of all life within a radius of 100,000 li. For tens of thousands of years since, this land has been barren, void of birds and beasts, becoming a dead zone. Some loose cultivators used this place as a sacred ground for overcoming tribulations. The 9 Nether Kirin King landed on the highest peak, tucked in its wings, retreated hundreds of zhang, and quietly watched how its master, who suffered from delusions, would trigger a heavenly tribulation with his divine sea realm cultivation. Di Qianjue stood on the mountaintop, looking up at the night sky. The moon was bright, the stars were sparse, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. It was good weather for overcoming a tribulation. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and silently recited in his heart, System, claim 9th stage Divine King cultivation. Ding! Does the host confirm the claim? Confirmed. Boom! In that instant, Di Qianjue felt as if something had exploded inside his body. It was not an explosion, but a release. Like a flood that had been sealed for 18 years, it finally found a breach in the dam, rushing out with unstoppable momentum. The aura within his body began to skyrocket. Divine Sea Realm late stage, peak boom. Origin returning realm early stage, mid stage, late stage, peak boom. Dharma phase realm early stage, mid stage, late stage, peak boom. Heavenly human realm early stage, mid stage, late stage, peak boom. Spirit severing realm. Every breakthrough in realm was accompanied by a crisp crack sound. That was the sound of shackles shattering, the sound of the chains placed on a cultivator by the rules being broken one by one. Di Qianjue felt as if he were flying. Not flying through the air, but a leap of the soul. His consciousness extended infinitely, as if he were about to touch the end of heaven and earth. Vaguely, he felt the changes in his body. That was the shedding of his mortal shell. His bones were reforming, his blood was boiling, his meridians were expanding, and his dantian was opening up. A faint golden light emerged on the surface of his skin. That was the aura of the divine body condensed after stepping into the divine realm. This was not any specific special constitution, but the purest, most primordial, divine realm body. It was the body belonging to a god that every cultivator who stepped into the divine realm would possess. Spirit severing realm, first layer. Third layer. Fifth layer. Eighth layer. As his cultivation continued to skyrocket, his sea of consciousness also underwent earth-shaking changes. The originally fist-sized sea of consciousness expanded suddenly when he broke through to the Divine Lord realm. Like a pebble thrown into a lake, ripples spread out. The ripples continued to spread outward, from a few zhang to tens of zhang, from tens of zhang to hundreds of zhang. After a few breaths, his sea of consciousness had expanded to a radius of 10,000 zhang, and his cultivation was still rising. Divine Lord realm. Divine Lord realm, second layer, seventh layer, ninth layer. In the center of the 10,000 zhang sea of consciousness, he felt a vague domain taking shape. And in this domain, he was the master. When his cultivation reached the peak of the Divine Lord realm, a layer of faint spatial ripples appeared within Qianjue domain. That's right, that was the power that only a God King could touch, the power of the law. Boom! A barrier shattered, and he successfully stepped into the Divine King realm. Within a few breaths, his cultivation promoted to the 9th stage, Divine King, and his domain grew crazily along with his sea of consciousness, and his comprehension of the law was different from others. On the Qianjue continent, most laws are of the 5 elements. Those with higher talent might have mutated attributes like lightning, wind, or ice. In Qianjue domain, it was space. As long as it was covered by his domain, the space law was under his control. He could compress space, shrinking a distance of 100 zhang into a single step. He could stretch space, making enemies of the same rank who were close at hand unable to ever approach. He could also twist space, making the enemy's attacks deviate from their direction. He could even tear space, banishing enemies into the void turbulence. This was the 1-in-a-million space law. Qianjue felt the power of the law gradually condensing, taking shape, and becoming clear within his domain, and an unspeakable ecstasy surged in his heart. The saying goes, space is king, time is venerable. With this law, his combat power would far exceed that of cultivators at the same level. Even without divine abilities or treasures, relying solely on the space law, he could almost achieve an invincible position. At this moment, his previously violent aura gradually disappeared, and his cultivation had actually reached the peak of the Divine King realm. He was only one step away from the supreme heavenly venerable. Qianjue opened his eyes and exhaled a long, turbid breath. That turbid breath did not dissipate in the air, but transformed into a white sword of energy, shooting straight into the clouds, shattering a cloud into powder. He clenched his fist, feeling the surging power within his body. Is this the power of the 9th stage, Divine King? It is truly strong. Qianjue couldn't help but laugh wildly, simply because this was the first time since his rebirth that he had a trace of a sense of security. And if the previous Divine Sea realm was an ant, then he was now a tiger. The leap from ant to tiger took less than an incense stick of time. On the low peak, the 9 Nether Kirin King squatted there, its dark blue pupils widened into circles. What was it seeing? A human ant from the mid-stage of the Divine Sea realm, within an incense stick of time, continuously broke through the origin returning, Dharma phase, celestial being, spirit severing, and divine lord realms. Then it rushed directly to the 9th stage Divine King. That was the 9th stage Divine King. It had lived for who knows how many tens of thousands of years, having seen countless geniuses and monsters, and even unbelievable things. But it had never seen someone jump from Divine Sea to God King within an incense stick of time. This was not cultivation. This was cheating. The 9 Nether Kirin King's pupils contracted violently, its mind blank. It remembered its previous disdain for this human, a little ant in the Divine Sea realm. Why should he be my master? It remembered its previous unwillingness, a dignified half-emperor beast king, actually becoming the mount of this weak human. It remembered its previous grievances, Being suppressed by a little girl in white was one thing, but having to be a mount for her man? But now, it looked at the human standing on the mountaintop, surrounded by spatial ripples, and the unwillingness, grievances, and disdain in its heart were shattering layer by layer, like an ice sheet hit by a hammer. Shattered completely clean. Replacing them was a kind of emotion it had never experienced before. Deep shock, a shock from the soul level that could not be described in words. It suddenly felt that it didn't feel so aggrieved anymore. Being a mount for a human monster who jumped from divine sea to God King, it seemed not unacceptable. No, that's not right. It shook its head, tried to regain a trace of dignity. It was the nine-nether Qianjue king of the half-emperor realm, the overlord of the blazing demon forest, an ancient beast that had lived for countless tens of thousands of years, possessing the bloodlines of the ancestral Qian and the nine-nether phoenix. Even if this human was a monstrous talent, he was still only in the divine king realm. Before it, he was still a slightly larger ant. Yes, that's right. The nine-nether Qian king comforted itself, puffed out its chest again, and a bit of arrogance returned to its dark blue pupils. Then it thought of the little girl in white, the human woman who suppressed it with one hand. Thinking of that day's scene, its soul couldn't help but tremble, and the chest it had just puffed out collapsed again. Sigh. Forget it. Accept my fate. Being able to be the mount of this monster, perhaps, is also a blessing. The nine-nether Qian king's eyes changed from shock to numbness, and from numbness to a kind of calm acceptance. However, just as the nine-nether Qian king's mentality completely settled into acceptance, a sudden change occurred in the sky. Woo! The night sky, originally bright with moon and sparse stars, was instantly covered by thick, heavy dark clouds. The dark clouds came without warning, the cloud layer getting thicker and lower, pressing down so hard that it was suffocating. Crackle! Within the clouds, purple lightning surged, like electric snakes weaving, entangling, and hissing through the sea of clouds. Rumble! Thunder rumbled, shaking the mountain until it trembled. Rubble tumbled down the cliffside with a thunderous roar. A fierce wind rose abruptly. It wasn't an ordinary wind, but a type of astral wind carrying the power of lightning. The wind cut like a blade, stinging the face. The spiritual energy in the air turned violent. Breathing it into the lungs felt like swallowing a mouthful of flames. Between heaven and earth, a chilling aura of slaughter prevailed. The nine-nether Qian king looked up at the thunderclouds in the sky, a trace of wariness flickering in its deep blue pupils. It retreated several hundred feet, crouching on a distant lower peak. Its wings folded and its body stayed low, trying its best to remain inconspicuous. Heavenly tribulations were nothing but trouble if one got caught in them. Even as a half-emperor, it didn't want to be affected by the fallout. Qianjue stood atop the mountain peak, looking up at the thunderclouds and whispering to himself, "Is the heavenly tribulation coming?" His robes flapped loudly in the gale, and his long hair danced wildly behind him, yet his posture remained motionless, like an ancient pine rooted in rock. There was no fear on his face, only calm and a hint of excitement. He shouted loudly, "Deity transformation tribulation come." Boom! With a shout, the first bolt of heavenly lightning fell. The lightning was purple and as thick as a water bucket, striking straight down from the clouds at a speed almost impossible for the naked eye to track. Qianjue did not dodge. He didn't even circulate his divine power to resist. He simply reached out his hand, fingers spread, as if welcoming an old friend. Crack! The purple lightning struck his palm, letting out a deafening boom. The current spread through his arm to his entire body, rampaging through his meridians in an attempt to destroy everything within him. But after the sudden surge in cultivation just now, Qianjue's body had already undergone a complete transformation. Instead of causing damage, the lightning power entering his meridians was absorbed and refined by his body, turning into a strand of pure energy that merged into his dantian. He passed the first bolt of heavenly lightning with ease. Qianjue withdrew his hand and looked at his palm. There was only a faint white mark. The skin wasn't even broken. He smiled. Is that it? Boom! The second bolt of heavenly lightning fell. This time there were two, one on the left and one on the right, like two purple flood dragons pouncing on him with bared fangs and claws. Qianjue still didn't dodge. He struck out with both hands, catching one with his left and one with his right. The lightning exploded in his hands, emitting a blinding light that illuminated the entire mountain peak. Then, one bolt after another descended, each stronger than the last. Qianjue took them all without a change in expression. His robes were charred black by the lightning, and his long hair was somewhat curled, but his body remained unharmed. The deity transformation tribulation consisted of 5 bolts of heavenly lightning in total. He took them all without using any divine abilities or treasures, relying entirely on his physical body. But before he could even catch his breath, the lightning of the divine Lord Tribulation arrived, and it was more than a level stronger than the deity transformation tribulation. When the first bolt of heavenly lightning fell, Qianjue immediately felt the difference. The lightning was no longer purple, but had turned purple gold, carrying a faint golden glow. That was the power of the heavenly Tao contained within the tribulation, more overbearing and harder to resist than ordinary lightning. This time, Qianjue didn't use his hands to catch it. Swoosh! He stepped into the air and soared toward the sky, proactively meeting the heavenly lightning. Boom! The purple gold lightning struck him, knocking his body back several feet. NGH! A dull pain throbbed in his chest, and a trace of blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. But that was all. Qianjue wiped the blood from his mouth, a fighting spirit flickering in his eyes. Interesting. Boom! The second bolt of heavenly lightning fell. This time, he didn't endure it passively, but met it with a punch. One punch. A simple, ordinary punch, using no martial techniques or laws. Just pure physical strength. Fist collided with heavenly lightning, producing a heavy, muffled boom. Bang! The heavenly lightning was shattered by his punch, turning into countless tiny arcs of electricity that dissipated in the air. Then the third, fourth, and fifth, Qianjue shattered the bolts one by one with his fists, each punch heavier, faster, and more ferocious than the last. His fists were dripping blood, and his arms were trembling, but his eyes grew brighter and brighter. By the time the 8th bolt fell, Qianjue's fists were a bloody mess, exposing white bone. Yet his back remained straight, and his gaze was as firm as iron. Then came the final bolt. That lightning was no longer purple gold, but had become pure gold. It descended slowly from the clouds. It wasn't fast, but with every inch it fell, the pressure in the air doubled. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Feeling that pressure, Qianjue's breath hitched slightly. He knew he couldn't take this bolt head-on. His figure flickered, leaving an afterimage on the peak while his true body appeared 100 feet away. But the golden lightning seemed to have eyes. It took a turn in midair and continued to strike toward him. Qianjue frowned. Damn it! Before he could finish, he dodged again. But the lightning followed closely behind. After 7 consecutive dodges, the golden lightning was like a maggot on a bone, pursuing him relentlessly. Qianjue stopped and took a deep breath. Since he couldn't avoid it, then he would face it head-on. Come on! He clenched his fists, mobilizing all the power in his body to meet the golden lightning. Boom! Between heaven and earth, everything turned white. The 9 Nether Kirin King narrowed its eyes, avoiding the blinding light. When the white light dissipated, Qianjue was kneeling on one knee atop the peak, his body charred black and his aura weak. But he was still alive. Not only alive, inside him, a brand new power was awakening. That was the power of a true divine Lord Realm. Qianjue slowly stood up and let out a long howl toward the sky. The howl pierced clouds and cracked stone, echoing through the mountains for a long time. Having passed the divine Lord Tribulation, Qianjue didn't dare relax, because next was the God King Tribulation. He looked up at the void again, seeing that the dark clouds in the sky were 10 times thicker than before. and the cloud layer had turned dark red, as if soaked in blood. The lightning within the clouds was no longer purple or gold, but had become blood-colored. Yes, blood-colored lightning. Roar! The lightning churned, tangled, and roared within the clouds, each bolt as thick as a water bucket, like blood-colored flood dragons. A suffocating sense of pressure filled the air. It was the heavenly might. Qianjue looked up at the blood-colored thunderclouds, and the composure on his face finally vanished. Replacing it was a look of solemnity, an unprecedented solemnity. Is this the divine king realm lightning tribulation? Truly terrifying. Qianjue felt that this heavenly tribulation was completely different from the previous ones. The heavenly thunder of the deity transformation tribulation was a test. The heavenly thunder of the God-Lord tribulation was a tempering. But the heavenly thunder of the God-King tribulation was a judgment. It was the judgment of heaven and earth upon those cultivators who defied the natural order. If one passed, the sky would be vast and the sea boundless. If one failed, the soul would scatter and the body would perish. Boom! The first blood-colored heavenly thunder descended. The lightning was as thick as a millstone, striking straight down from the clouds with such speed that even Qianjue divine sense could barely track it. He did not dodge, because he knew that a heavenly tribulation could not be avoided. Dodging before was undoubtedly a waste of energy. He clenched his fists tightly, mobilized all the power within his body, and met the blood-colored heavenly thunder head-on. Boom! Fist and thunder collided, emitting a deafening roar. Qianjue's body was knocked back dozens of zhang, his feet plowing 2 deep trenches into the mountain peak. His fists were a bloody mess, fresh blood dripping from between his fingers and splashing onto the mountain rocks like blooming flowers. But he had withstood the first strike. The second heavenly thunder followed immediately, twice as strong as the first. Qianjue swung his fist to meet it again. Boom! Another loud explosion rang out. Qianjue's body was sent flying, crashing into the mountain wall behind him and creating a human-shaped crater a zhang deep. Rubble fell with a clatter, burying half of his body. He struggled to crawl out of the rubble and spat out a mouthful of blood foam. The second strike withstood. Then came the third, the fourth, and the fifth, each one stronger than the last. Under the bombardment of the blood-colored heavenly thunder, cracks began to appear on Qianjue's body. Not cracks in his bones, but cracks in his physical flesh. The surface of his skin was covered in fine cracks, like a dried-up riverbed. Fresh blood seeped from the cracks, staining him into a bloody mess. His robes had long since turned to ash. Most of his long hair was scorched, and the skin on his face was charred black, making him almost unrecognizable. But he still stood, his waist straight and upright. When the sixth heavenly thunder fell, his knees buckled. When the seventh fell, he knelt on one knee on the ground. After the eighth fell, he collapsed onto the ground, his whole body trembling, lacking even the strength to lift a hand. His consciousness began to blur, and the world before his eyes turned a deep crimson. Am I going to die? No, my good days have only just begun. System, he called out in his heart, his voice as weak as a mosquito's buzz. I can't hold on anymore. Ding! The system prompt sounded, its tone tinged with a hint of impatience. Host, this is only the 8th strike. Qianjue. What did it mean by only the 8th strike? He was about to die. Rest assured, you won't die. Are you sure? Not sure. Qianjue. But other than enduring it head-on, host, you don't seem to have any other choice. Qianjue. He felt that this system wasn't helping him, but harming him. A trace of regret welled up in his heart, regretting that he had listened to the system and come to undergo the tribulation. If he had made full preparations, he believed he would surely have passed it smoothly. Ding! Friendly reminder. The final heavenly thunder is about to descend. Host can choose to give up, and then have your soul scattered and body perish. Or give it a shot. Qianjue was unwilling. He had spent 18 years living in stifling oppression, And now that he finally had a chance to turn the tables and slap the faces of the courtiers, he had to give it his all. He gritted his teeth and crawled up from the ground. His body was trembling, his legs shaking uncontrollably, but he still stood up. Although he was tottering, he had finally stood up. He looked up at the blood-colored thunderclouds in the sky and let out a roar. "Come on!" Within the clouds, the final heavenly thunder seemed to sense his provocation and was gathering frantically. This heavenly thunder was thicker, brighter, and more terrifying than the previous 8 combined. It was no longer lightning, but a blood-colored giant dragon, poking its head out from the clouds, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, looking down at the tiny human on the ground. Qianjue looked at the blood-colored dragon, an absurd thought welling up in his heart. I might really die here. With a cultivation base at the 9th level of the Divine King realm, before I've even warmed it up, I'm about to die. He suddenly thought of Jiang Lingxian. He thought of her amber eyes, the way she looked at him with her head tilted, and the nonchalant way she had said, "In the future, I'll let it be your mount." If she knew he had died, would she be sad? She probably would. After all, she was his partner. Although this partner status was forced upon him by the system, and although she might not even understand what partner meant, she would probably still be sad. Qianjue took a deep breath and clenched his fists. Even if just to keep her from being sad, he had to live. Arg! Qianjue let out a long howl. The blood-colored dragon dove down from the clouds, opening its giant maw to swallow him whole. He did not dodge, nor did he have the strength to do so. He simply stood there, head tilted back, watching the blood-colored dragon draw closer and closer. Boom! Between heaven and earth, everything turned blood-red. The 9 Nether Qian king crouched on a low peak in the distance, watching the blood-red light engulf the entire mountain, its pupils shrinking violently. It felt the power of that heavenly thunder. It was no longer just a heavenly tribulation. It was a heavenly punishment. It was the punishment of the heavenly Tao upon a cultivator. And this monstrous human, could he survive it? The 9 Nether Qian king did not know. It only knew that if it were in his place back when it was in the Divine King realm, it absolutely would not have been able to withstand a heavenly thunder of this magnitude. The blood-red light lasted for a full 10 breaths. Then it gradually dissipated. The 9 Nether Qian king looked closely. The mountain was still there, but the person on the mountain was gone. No, not gone. Shattered. That's right. Qianjue's physical body had been completely pulverized under the bombardment of that blood-colored heavenly thunder. Flesh and blood had flown everywhere. Bones turned to ash. Only a phantom soul remained, suspended in mid-air, tottering as if it could be blown away by the wind at any moment. The 9 Nether Qian king's pupils contracted sharply. Physical body shattered. Only the soul remained. This, had he failed the tribulation? Qianjue's soul hovered in mid-air, looking at his dissipated physical body, his heart turning icy cold. Damn, did I really die? No, that's not right. My soul is still here. But thinking that his physical body was gone, how long could he last with just his soul? An incense stick's time? Half an hour? A day? He would dissipate sooner or later. Qianjue gave a bitter laugh. As expected, it was still too much of a stretch. He had jumped directly from the Divine Sea to the Divine King realm, crossing 5 major realms. How could such a heaven-defying feat come without a price? But the price was, his physical body could not withstand the heavenly thunder of the God King tribulation. System, he called out in his heart, his voice so weak it was almost inaudible. Am I about to dissipate? This time, the system did not reply immediately. It was silent for 3 breaths. Then, ding. Host, do not be anxious. After all, the path of cultivation is inherently an act of defying the heavens. The heavenly tribulation is the heavenly Tao's test for cultivators, and also the heavenly Tao's gift to cultivators. If you endure it, it is a gift. If you cannot endure it, it is destruction. Qianjue was stunned. Then do I belong to the heavenly Tao's gift? Or have I been destroyed? Normally, Since the host's physical body was destroyed, it would be considered a failure of the tribulation. But with this system present, it must pass regardless. Ding! Triggering hidden mechanism, Heavenly Tao's gift. Please prepare yourself. The Heavenly Tao's gift is about to descend. Qianjue took a deep breath. It can even be played like this? I thought I would be like the web novels of my past life, where having my physical body destroyed meant I would have to become a loose immortal. Before his voice faded, a sudden change occurred in the sky. That thick, blood-colored thundercloud instantly dissipated without a trace, as if it had never appeared. Replacing it was a golden beam of light. The beam of light fell straight down from the 9 heavens, piercing through the clouds, the atmosphere, and space, enveloping Qianjue's soul within it. The golden light was warm and gentle, like a mother's embrace, like spring sunshine, and also like a hearth fire in winter. Qianjue's soul bathed in the golden beam of light, feeling an unprecedented sense of comfort. The light seemed to have a life of its own, circulating, wrapping around, and permeating his soul. Then his physical body began to reconstruct. It was not a slow growth, but an instantaneous reshaping. Bones condensed from nothingness, meridians extended from the bones, muscles grew from the meridians, and skin covered the muscles, smooth as jade. In just a few breaths, a brand new physical body took form within the golden beam of light. It was stronger, tougher, and more perfect than his previous physical body. Qianjue opened his eyes and looked down at his hands. His fingers were slender, his skin fair, with golden light faintly circulating beneath the surface. He clenched his fist, feeling an unprecedented power. This was not power from his divine king realm cultivation, but the power of his physical body. A type of power that did not require mobilizing true essence, did not require activating laws, and belonged purely to his body. His physical body, under the baptism of the Heavenly Tao's gift, combined with his soul tempered by the heavenly tribulation, had become stronger than any cultivator of the same realm. It was even stronger than those cultivators who possessed special constitutions. Qianjue stood on the mountaintop, looking up at the sky. The golden beam of light gradually dissipated, and the moon and stars reappeared in the sky. The night breeze brushed against his face, carrying the scent of earth. He took a deep breath, feeling the surging power within his body, and his lips slowly curled upward. Divine King Realm 9th Layer. This wave was not a loss. On the low peak, the 9 Nether Kirin King crouched there, its dark blue pupils widened into circles. Its mouth was open, unable to close. Its mind was completely blank. Even though it had lived for countless tens of thousands of years, it had never seen a living being undergo a tribulation and be able to reconstruct their physical body after it had shattered. One must know that under the heavenly tribulation, if the physical body shatters, it means the tribulation has failed, and one is about to face the dissipation of their soul. But this human, although his physical body shattered, his soul remained. Not only did it remain, but his physical body was also reshaped by the Heavenly Tao's gift. A physical body stronger than before. The 9 Nether Kirin King slowly closed its mouth, slowly blinked, and slowly exhaled a breath of turbid air. It was numb, completely numb. Suddenly, it recalled a legend from the ancient era. There's a type of person who is born as an existence that defies the heavens. The heavenly tribulation is not their end, but their beginning. The stronger the heavenly tribulation, the stronger they are. The more ruthless the heavenly tribulation, the more monstrous they are. Such people are called the heaven chosen. The 9 Nether Kirin King looked at the figure standing with hands behind his back on a mountaintop. In its dark blue pupils, the shock gradually faded, replaced by a deep, soul-level reverence. It suddenly felt that being suppressed by that little girl in white and becoming this human's mount was not a humiliation, but an honor. It was a blessing that countless fierce beasts could not beg for. The 9 Nether Kirin King slowly stood up, lowered its head, and bowed its proud head toward Qianjue. This was not forced by the contract. It was submission from the heart. Qianjue stood on the mountaintop, feeling the change in the 9 nether Kirin king, and his lips curled slightly upward. He turned around, looked at the 9 nether Kirin king, and said softly, let's go home. The 9 nether Kirin king raised its head, spread its wings, flew to Qianjue's side, and lowered its body. Qianjue leaped onto its back and patted its horns. You performed well. I'll give you extra food when we get back. The 9 nether Kirin king snorted, exhaling a stream of scorching hot air, flapped its wings, and soared into the sky. Under the moonlight, the 9 nether Kirin king's figure streaked across the sky like a meteor, flying toward the direction of the imperial city. And Qianjue, sitting on the back of the 9 nether Kirin king, finally believed the system's words about helping him become the hegemon of the universe at this moment. Although this soft rice system's name sounded awkward, it was truly powerful. Above the imperial palace of the Taishu Divine Dynasty, the 9 nether Kirin king carried Qianjue as they flew toward Qianjue Palace. Both the man and the beast concealed their aura, especially Qianjue. He had the system hide all of his cultivation, only displaying a mid-stage God-Sea realm cultivation to the outside world. Returning to Qianjue Palace, Qianjue couldn't wait to enter his bedchamber, then sat cross-legged and opened the system panel. Host, Qianjue Cultivation, Divine King Realm 9th Layer Technique, Myriad Dao Convergence Art, Imperial Clan Heritage Technique, Soft Rice Points, 15,000 points Draw Chances, 0 Bound Partner, Jiang Lingshan Cultivation, Current Status, Tribulation Success, Physical Body Strength increased by 300% overall evaluation. The host has initially met the basic conditions for eating soft rice toughly. Please continue to maintain this. Qianjue looked at the 4 characters eating soft rice toughly, and his mouth twitched. System, can you change the term? I don't feel I can eat soft rice with confidence. No. Host, even when eating soft rice, you should be tough. After all, you are the imperial prince of the Divine Dynasty. Qianjue. He took a deep breath, deciding not to bicker with the system. He got up and walked to the window, looking at the neighboring Lanyway Pavilion, where the lights had already been extinguished. It seemed Jiang Lingshan must have already fallen asleep. He recalled her amber eyes, recalled her nonchalant tone when she said, I'll let it be your mount in the future, and recalled the way she looked at him with her head tilted. His lips curled up slightly, unconsciously, and he said softly, Tomorrow, I will take you to eat the most delicious food in the imperial city. Outside the window, moonlight spilled onto the roof of Lanyway Pavilion, as if plated with a layer of silver. The night breeze blew by, bringing a faint scent of osmanthus flowers. Qianjue closed the window, lay back on the bed, closed his eyes, and soon he fell into a deep sleep. That night, at the ancestral residence of the Jian and Yi family, the night was as dark as ink, and a thin mist hung over the lake, enveloping the white walls and black tiles of the Yi family's ancestral residence. Seen from afar, it looked like a traditional ink wash painting. However, the atmosphere inside Chunjin Hall was even heavier than the night outside. At this moment, Yi Wuchun was kneeling in the hall. His moon-white brocade robe was stained with blood and mud. His hair was disheveled, and his face was deathly pale. The arrogance that had once filled his triangular eyes was gone, replaced only by the terror of having narrowly escaped death. Behind him, the blood guard of the Supreme Realm who had rescued him knelt on one knee, covered in blood, his aura withered. His left arm had been severed at the root, the stump a bloody mess where white bone was vaguely visible. This was the injury left behind after being crushed by Jiang Lingshan power of law. The self-healing ability of the Supreme Realm was actually unable to regenerate the severed arm. Yi Qinyuan sat upright in the grand armchair, his dark cyan brocade robe shimmering with a cold, eerie light under the candlelight. His triangular eyes were sunken into their sockets, his gaze as gloomy as a cold pool, and his fingers tapped lightly on the armrest, producing a rhythmic doo-doo sound. 12 blood guards. His voice was hoarse and low, like sandpaper rubbing together, and only one returned. No one in the hall dared to respond. 11 blood guards, including a leader at the 8th level of the Supreme Realm. Yi Qianjue's mouth twitched slightly, an emotional fluctuation he rarely displayed. Were suppressed by that woman alone? The blood guard of the Supreme Realm lowered his head. Yes. Her cultivation level? Subordinate. Cannot tell. Yi Qianjue's fingers stopped. Cannot tell. Yes. Her aura does not seem like that of a great emperor. Inside Qianjue Hall, there was a deathly silence. Yi Qianjue's triangular eyes narrowed into slits, the light emanating from them like the tongue of a venomous snake. His fingers resumed tapping on the armrest, but this time the rhythm was faster and more chaotic. The successor of the monarch Xianxia. Within the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, she suppressed and killed 11 blood guards and severely injured one at the 8th level of the Supreme Realm. Yi Qianjue closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and slowly exhaled. She cannot be allowed to marry Qianjue. Absolutely not. If the Taishu Divine Dynasty were to gain the support of the monarch Xianxia lineage, then the Yi family's plans spanning tens of thousands of years would all go down the drain. But for now, the Yi family could not confront the Taishu Divine Dynasty directly. That old thing Qianjue, although he has been weakening the noble families all these years, his strength is undeniable. He is one of the 3 strongest individuals of the human race. In a direct confrontation, the Yi family has no chance of winning. They can only borrow strength. Yi Qianjue opened his eyes, his gaze landing on his son. Wuchun, get up. Yi Wuchun stood up, his legs still trembling slightly. It was not because of fear, but because of humiliation. Yi Wuchun had never been in such a sorry state since he was a child. Father, that woman's strength. I know. Yi Qianjue interrupted him. Therefore, we cannot confront her head-on. He took a jade slip from his sleeve and placed it on the table. Yi Wuchun saw the words on the jade slip and was slightly stunned. Qianjue Imperial Dynasty? Tens of thousands of years ago, before our Yi family separated from the Taishu Divine Dynasty, we had dealings with all 4 imperial dynasties. Yi Qianjue's voice was unhurried, as if recounting a dust-laden history. Among them, our relationship with the Qianjue Imperial Dynasty was the deepest. He paused, a trace of reminiscence flashing in his triangular eyes. Back then, the ancestor of the Yi family once helped the current Emperor Qianjue. If not for the ancestor's intervention, it would have been someone else from a branch family on the Qianjue throne. Yi Wuchun's pupils contracted slightly. He had never heard his father mention this past event. Emperor Qianjue owes our Yi family a favor. Yi Qianjue pushed the jade slip forward. Now, it is time for him to repay it. Yi Wuchun stepped forward, picked up the jade slip, and probed it with his divine sense. Inside was detailed information about the Qianjue Imperial Dynasty, including the temperament, preferences, and weaknesses of Emperor Qianjue, as well as the distribution of various major forces within the imperial court. Father, do you mean to have the Qianjue Imperial Dynasty step in? Not step in. A cold smile curled at the corners of Yi Qianjue's mouth, but cooperate. He stood up, walked to the window with his hand behind his back, and looked at the shimmering Lake Tai outside. Although the Taishu Divine Dynasty is strong, if the 4 imperial dynasties were to join forces, along with our Yi family, the Murung family, and other noble clans, no matter how strong Qianjue is, he cannot fight against so many. He turned around, cold light flashing in his triangular eyes. Wuchun, you must set off immediately for the Qianjue Imperial Dynasty. Tell Emperor Qianjue, the Yi family is willing to conspire for the world with him. Yi Wuchun tucked the jade slip into his robe and bowed. I will obey, father. Remember, Yi Qianjue's voice suddenly turned icy. This trip must succeed. Failure is not an option. Yi Wuchun raised his head. The terror in his eyes had vanished, replaced by a near-manic obsession. Rest assured, father, I will not disgrace our mission. On the other side, in the far east, in the Tianwan mountain range, Murung Heavenly City. Inside Lingshuang Hall, the candlelight flickered. Supreme Heavenly Venerable Murun Kaio sat on a cold jade chair. His face as handsome as jade, with 3 long strands of beard hanging to his chest, possessing the bearing of an immortal. He held a cup of tea in his hand, the tea warm, the steam curling up and blurring his features. Below the hall, a person in black knelt on the ground, forehead pressed against the cold floor, not daring to look up. Speak. Supreme Heavenly Venerable Murun Kaio voice was as cold and clear as a jade chime, devoid of any emotion. The person in black trembled slightly. Patriarch Darkblade has been completely wiped out. Supreme Heavenly Venerable Murun Kaio hand holding the tea paused for a moment. Only for a moment. Then, he continued to drink his tea as if he had heard nothing. How many people? 32 people, including the one in the Divine King realm. Supreme Heavenly Venerable Murun Kaio set down the teacup, which collided with the cold jade table with a crisp ding sound. The sound was not loud, but it made the person in black tremble violently. How did they die? Killed. Killed by that woman alone. Alone. Yes. According to the report from the scout who escaped, that woman only raised her hand once, and the 32 of them were gone. Inside Lingshuang Hall, a deathly silence fell. Supreme Heavenly Venerable Murun Kaio wolf-like eyes narrowed slightly. The flickering candlelight reflected in his deep gray pupils. There was no expression on his face, no anger, no shock, not even a ripple of emotion. But those who knew him well knew that this calmness was more terrifying than rage. The successor of the monarch Xianxia, he spoke slowly, his voice still cold and clear, truly lives up to her reputation. He stood up, walked to the window with his hands behind his back, and looked at the surging sea of clouds outside. Di Qingtian certainly has a good eye. Silence for a moment. Pass the order. Double the number of secret agents. Monitor every move of the Divine Dynasty day and night. Where Qianjue goes, who he meets, what he says, report everything, no matter how trivial daily. Yes. Additionally, a cold light flashed in Supreme Heavenly Venerable Murun Kaio wolf-like eyes. Closely monitor the movements of the Jiangnan Yi family, the Baiming Xiao family, and the Qianjue family. These old foxes will not sit idly by and watch the Divine Dynasty marry into the monarch Xianxia lineage. Does the patriarch intend to? Supreme Heavenly Venerable Murun Kaio turned around, a cold smile curling at the corners of his mouth. Do nothing. The person in black was stunned. At least, do nothing for now. Supreme Heavenly Venerable Murun Kaio sat back on the cold jade chair, picked up the teacup, and gently blew on the floating leaves on the surface of the tea. Wait. The corners of his mouth lifted slightly, the smile carrying the unique patience of a predator. That old fox Yicheniwan is more anxious than anyone. Let him go and collide with Di Qingtian, this iron plate, first, and we'll be behind. He took a sip of tea and swallowed the second half of his sentence. But the person in black already understood. When the snipe and the clam struggle, the fisherman benefits. This subordinate understands. The person in black stood up, bowed, and retreated from Lingshuang Hall. Inside the hall, only Supreme Heavenly Venerable Murun Kaio remained. He set down the teacup and took an ancient bronze token from his sleeve, the Xianbing token. The token was engraved with the 2 characters Murung in a primitive style, said to have been carved by the ancestor of the Murung family, using only finger strength. His thumb gently stroked the patterns on the token, the light in his wolf-like eyes growing deeper. Di Qingtian, he muttered to himself, his voice so low that only he could hear, this game has only just begun. The next morning, early dawn. Sunlight streamed through the window lattices of Qianjue Palace, casting golden patches on the floor. Outside, birds chirped on the branches, their crisp and pleasant songs seemingly waking those still in deep slumber. Di Qianjue had long been awake, not because he was diligent, but because Bai Yao and Bei Ling had pushed open the door right on time. One carried a bronze basin while the other held his robes, both wearing smiles that said, "Your Highness, if you don't get up, we're pulling back the covers." "Your Highness, it is time to rise. Your Highness, you are to accompany Miss Jiang out of the palace today. You cannot be late." Qianjue sat up in bed and rubbed his eyes. His long hair fell over his shoulders, and his sleeping robes hung loosely on his body, revealing a section of his collarbone. Bai Yao stepped forward to wash his face while Bei Ling helped him dress. The two maidservants were nimble, and in less than the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, they had him looking fresh and tidy. Today he wore a moon-white brocade robe embroidered with elegant silver thread bamboo patterns, a white jade belt around his waist, and his long hair tied up with a white jade hairpin. He looked as refined as jade and as gentle as a breeze. Bai Yao took a step back, looked him up and down, and nodded with satisfaction. "Your Highness looks truly handsome today," Bei Ling echoed. "Indeed, even more handsome than usual." Qianjue looked in a bronze mirror and agreed that he looked quite good. But looking good wasn't the point. The point was, he was going to do something big today, and that was to live off a woman. He had decided last night, to gain soft rice points, he had to make Jiang Lingshan provide for him. And the best way to get an innocent girl to take the initiative to provide is to play poor. No, to play weak. Even though he had crossed the God King tribulation last night, he had already had the system mask his cultivation upon his return. In the eyes of outsiders, he was still that weakling at the mid-stage of the Divine Sea realm. Qianjue walked out of Qianjue Palace and arrived before Laniwei Pavilion. Jiang Lingshan was already waiting at the door. She was dressed in snow-white clothes, her long hair hanging down, her bare feet stepping on the bluestone ground. The morning light washed over her, coating her in a faint golden layer, making her look like a freshly bloomed white lotus. When she saw Qianjue, she tilted her head, a hint of confusion flashing in her amber eyes. "You seem a bit different today." Qianjue art tightened. Is this girl's perception really that strong? But he remained calm on the surface and smiled. "How am I different?" Jiang Lingshan looked him up and down, thought for a moment, and said seriously, "I can't say. Just, the feeling is different." Qianjue gave a hollow laugh. "Maybe it's because I'm dressed handsomely today." Jiang Lingshan looked at him again and nodded. "Yes, you are handsome." Qianjue. This girl, she even gives compliments so seriously. Then his gaze fell upon Jiang Lingshan pair of fair, bare feet. With a flip of his hand, a pair of cloud-toed shoes appeared. Qianjue walked over to her and crouched at her feet. This isn't Xiaoyou Island. A girl going without shoes will be talked about by others. "Come, I'll help you put them on." Jiang Lingshan watched with interest, then extended a foot, letting Qianjue fuss over it. This was only because it was her. If it were any other woman, Qianjue's actions would have likely left her face flushed red with embarrassment. Once both feet were shod, Qianjue stood up and looked. Not bad, they look quite nice. Let's go. I'll take you to the imperial city to eat delicious food." Jiang Lingshan was still admiring her new shoes, but as soon as she heard there was delicious food, her eyes lit up. Delicious food? Yes, lots and lots of delicious food. Jiang Lingshan stepped out of Laniwei Pavilion. Her feet in the cloud-toed shoes stepping on the bluestone ground gave her a different sensation, her white clothes fluttering gently in the morning breeze. Qianjue followed behind her, watching her back with a slight upturn of his lips. Soft rice plan, Step 1, Departure. The imperial city of the Taishu Divine Dynasty is named Taishu City. It is the largest, most prosperous, and most bustling city in the middle divine realm of the Tianqian continent, bar none. The city walls are 100 zhang high and 10 zhang thick, built entirely of astral gold bricks that shimmer with a golden light under the sun. Every 100 paces along the wall stands an archery tower, garrisoned by the Divine Dynasties Imperial Guard who patrol day and night without rest. The city gate is 20 zhang high and 10 zhang wide, allowing 10 carriages to pass through side by side. Above the gate hangs a massive plaque with the 3 large characters, Taishu City, written in a vigorous and powerful script, personally penned by the founding emperor of the Taishu Divine Dynasty. Inside the city, streets crisscross, and shops stand in dense rows, selling spiritual herbs, magical tools, pills, spirit stones, demon beast materials. All kinds of shops are lined up, the characters on their signs glittering with gold, dazzling the eyes. People come and go on the streets, signs of noble families in fine robes, rogue cultivators with long swords on their backs, peddlers carrying poles, and beast tamers leading spiritual beasts. The shouting of vendors, the sounds of bargaining, and the noise of laughter interweave into a prosperous symphony. Jiang Lingshan walked down the street, her amber eyes wide as she looked left and right like a little bird just out of its cage. "What is this?" she asked, pointing at a candied hawthorn stall. "Candied hawthorns." Qianjue bought 2 sticks and handed one to her. Jiang Lingshan took a bite, and her eyes instantly lit up. "It's sweet. Is it good?" "It's good." She took another bite, her cheeks bulging like a little squirrel. Qianjue couldn't help but laugh seeing her like that. "And what is that?" Jiang Lingshan pointed to a sugar figure stall. "Sugar figures. They can be molded into all sorts of shapes. I want one." Qianjue pulled out money and bought a rabbit-shaped sugar figure. Jiang Lingshan held the candied hawthorns in one hand and the sugar figure in the other, taking bites from each until her face was covered in sugar stains. Qianjue pulled out a handkerchief and handed it to her. "Wipe your mouth." Jiang Lingshan took the handkerchief, gave her face a messy wipe, and continued eating. Next, she ate osmanthus cake, lotus seed soup, shortbread, honeyed fruits, preserved skewers, wontons, glutinous rice balls. Qianjue bought everything along the way, and Jiang Lingshan ate everything along the way. The two of them ate from the east of the city to the west, and from the south to the north. Jiang Lingshan's appetite was surprisingly good. After eating so much, her stomach was still flat, and one wondered where all that food had gone. While Qianjue was buying, he was silently calculating the cost in spirit stones. "That's about enough." He checked his spatial bag. He had intentionally swapped it for an ordinary one that couldn't hold many spirit stones, and now it was empty. Currency and cultivation resources: spirit stone, spirit crystal, purple crystal, sky crystal, divided into low, mid, high, and top grades. Currency system: 1 top-grade spirit stone equals 100 high-grade equals 10,000 mid-grade equals 1 million low-grade. Spirit stone cards, issued by the Divine Dynasty Bank, are used for circulation. Next was the second step of the soft rice plan, playing poor. The two of them arrived at a stall selling spiritual fruits. The spiritual fruits here were the most famous in the imperial city. It was said they were grown on spiritual veins, and every fruit contained dense spiritual energy. Eating one was equivalent to 3 days of cultivation. Jiang Lingshan's eyes lit up again as she looked at the crystal-clear spiritual fruits. "These. Want to eat some?" Qianjue asked. Jiang Lingshan nodded. "I happen to have a craving as well." Qianjue made a show of rummaging through his spatial bag, but all he pulled out were a few low-grade spirit stones. He frowned and made a difficult expression. "Oh dear, I don't have enough spirit stones left." Jiang Lingshan looked at the coin pouch in his hand and blinked. "Then let's not eat them." Her tone was very calm, without disappointment or grievance. Just a simple, "Then let's not eat them." Qianjue nodded inwardly. This girl really wasn't greedy. But today, he was here to make her greedy. "No," he shook his head. "I promise to take you to eat everything in the imperial city. How can we stop halfway? Besides, seeing these spiritual fruits has made me crave them too." He looked at the spiritual fruits on the stall, then back at his pouch, and sighed. "It's a pity I only brought this many spirit stones today." Jiang Lingshan tilted her head and looked at him, seemingly thinking about something. Then, she pulled a bag from her sleeve and handed it to Qianjue. "Here, I have some. My treat." Qianjue took the spatial bag and probed it with his divine sense. His eyes widened instantly. That lady's spatial bag was as large as a room. It was filled to the brim with top-grade spirit stones. "This," he looked up at Jiang Lingshan. "You brought so many spirit stones." Jiang Lingshan blinked, looking innocent. Oh, these are what I used to hit those spirit beasts when I was at Xianxia Island. Master said that everything down the mountain must be bought with spirit stones, so I brought them out. You use top-grade spirit stones to hit spirit beasts. Qianjue looked at the top-grade spirit stones in the spatial bag, the corner of his mouth twitching. I, a prince, only use top-grade spirit stones for cultivation. Indeed, Qianjue past cultivation resources were top-grade spirit stones. This was not because his parents were withholding resources from him, but because he was only at the mid-divine sea realm and could only use spirit stones for cultivation. As for spirit crystals or purple crystals, with his current cultivation level, he would likely explode and die if he tried to absorb them. Can you not use them? Seeing his stunned expression, xianxia flipped her hand and produced an ancient-looking spatial ring. There are more in here, though the energy is more vast and pure. Qianjue looked at her speechlessly, the corner of his mouth twitching as he said, "Enough? That is enough." He took a deep breath, retrieved one top-grade spirit stone from inside, returned the spatial bag to her, and handed the spirit stone to the stall owner. "I'll take all of these spirit fruits." The stall owner stared at that top-grade spirit stone, his eyes widening even more than Qianjue. He had been selling spirit fruits on this street for 30 years and had never seen anyone pay with a top-grade spirit stone. In Taishu City, for vendors like them, the currency was mostly spirit stones and mostly low-grade or mid-grade ones at that. Top-grade ones were rarely seen. As for spirit crystals and the like, they were even rarer, generally only appearing in high-end restaurants and certain auction houses. "See, customer, I can't provide change for this." "No need for change," Qianjue replied casually. The stall owner nearly knelt down. However, just at this moment, "Yo, isn't this our ninth prince?" An insincere, mocking voice came from behind. Qianjue brows twitched slightly. He was all too familiar with this voice. Qianjue turned around. For people stood behind him. The leader was a young man in his early 20s, dressed in a treasure-blue brocade robe embroidered with golden, auspicious clouds. He wore a white jade belt at his waist and a purple gold crown on his head. His complexion was fair, and his features were decent, but the sharpness and arrogance in his eyes ruined everything. The corner of his mouth hooked into a condescending smile. His gaze swept over Qianjue and landed on Xianxia, a flash of greed appearing in his eyes before he quickly reined it in. Behind him stood 3 young men, equally luxuriously dressed, who were clearly his lackeys, or rather, toadies. Qianjue recognized him, Zhao Tianxi, the eldest legitimate son of Zhao Qianjue. They had been classmates who studied together at the academy of the imperial teacher Guchun. Zhao Qianjue held the title of Lord Tai Li and was a third-rank civil official of the Divine Dynasty, in charge of the Divine Dynasties' etiquette, sacrificial rites, and diplomatic affairs. Although his official rank was not the highest, his position was critical, making him a figure in the court who could not be underestimated. Relying on his father's favor, Zhao Tianxi acted tyrannically at the academy. Because Qianjue had mediocre talent and no power of his own, he became Zhao Tianxi's favorite target for bullying. How does the ninth prince have time to leave the palace today? Zhao Tianxi walked over slowly, waving his folding fan. "And you've brought this young lady?" His gaze fell on Xianxia again, this time lingering longer. Xianxia was concentrating on eating her spirit fruit, completely unaware that someone was looking at her. A flash of amazement crossed Zhao Tianxi's eyes, which then turned into jealousy. Why should this piece of trash be able to bring such a beautiful young lady around? And who might this be? He looked at Qianjue, deliberately drawing out his words. Qianjue remained calm, maintaining his gentle, jade-like smile. "Young Master Zhao, it has been a long time." "It has indeed been a long time." Zhao Tianxi closed his folding fan and tapped it against his palm. "I heard the ninth prince went to Xianxia Island and brought back a young lady. Could it be this one?" Without waiting for Qianjue's reply, he walked up and cupped his hands toward Xianxia, revealing a smile he thought was dashing. I am Zhao Tianxi, son of Lord Tai Li, Zhao Qianjue. May I ask for the young lady's name? Jiang Lingxian looked up, glanced at him, and then lowered her head to continue eating her spirit fruit. Zhao Tianxi's smile froze. His three lackeys looked at each other, not knowing what to say. Qianjue almost laughed out loud, but he held it in. Seeing that he kept harassing Miss Jiang, he spoke up. Young Master Zhao, Miss Jiang is new here and is not yet familiar with the etiquette of the Divine Dynasty. Please forgive her. The stiffness on Zhao Tianxi's face was quickly replaced by a smile, but it was somewhat forced. No matter, no matter. He waved his folding fan, his gaze darting between Qianjue and Miss Jiang. The Ninth Prince and Miss Jiang. Are you two? I'm taking Miss Jiang around the imperial city, Qianjue said. Around. Zhao Tianxi's gaze landed on the empty spatial bag in Qianjue's hand, and then on the spirit stone bag in Miss Jiang's hand. His eyes narrowed. Ninth Prince, are you not carrying enough money? His voice was not loud, but he spoke deliberately loudly, causing passers-by to turn their heads and look. Qianjue's brows twitched slightly, but he remained calm. I left in a hurry and didn't bring many spirit stones. Not many. Zhao Tianxi laughed, his laughter full of sarcasm. Ninth Prince, you're a prince. A prince goes out and brings only this little bit of spirit stones? He walked up, took the empty spatial bag from Qianjue's hand, weighed it in his hand, and then looked at the spirit stone bag in Miss Jiang's hand. On the other hand, this Miss Jiang is quite generous, buying a few spirit fruits with a top-grade spirit stone. Tisk, Ninth Prince you. He did not finish his sentence, but everyone could hear what was left unsaid. Passers-by began to whisper. Is it the Ninth Prince? It seems to be him. Why is he using a woman's spirit stones? Shoo, keep your voice down. Qianjue's expression remained calm, but he was already laughing inside. Zhao Tianxi, oh Zhao Tianxi, you really are a great assist. He had been wondering how to get Miss Jiang to voluntarily pay for him, but now, with Zhao Tianxi's arrival, he didn't even have to act. Young Master Zhao, Qianjue said, his voice unhurried. The matters between Miss Jiang and me are not for you to worry about. Zhao Tianxi raised an eyebrow. Is the Ninth Prince angry? He waved his folding fan, strolling slowly up to Qianjue, looking him up and down. Back when we were at the academy, the Ninth Prince wasn't like this. At that time, the Ninth Prince was gentle, elegant, humble, and low-key, never arguing with anyone. Why now? His gaze fell on Miss Jiang again, and the corner of his mouth hooked into an ambiguous smile. Have you grown a backbone now that you have a young lady backing you up? This was extremely cutting. It implied that Qianjue was faking it before, and also mocked him for relying on a woman now. A flash of cold light crossed Qianjue's eyes, but his expression remained calm. Young Master Zhao, his voice was still gentle, but there was a hint of coldness in his tone. Before you say certain things, it is best to think about the consequences. Consequences? Zhao Tianxi laughed, laughing unbridledly. Ninth Prince, are you threatening me? He closed his folding fan, pointed at himself, and then pointed at Qianjue. Although my father is the third-rank Lord Tai Li, I have strong talent and have already reached the Dharma phase realm. I will be going to the army for training in a few days. But what about you? Although you are a prince, your talent is mediocre, and you have no military power in your hands, no territory, and even less backing power. He shook his head, the sarcasm at the corner of his mouth deepening. You have nothing, just an empty title. What do you have to threaten me with? His three lackeys joined in the laughter, their voices filled with sycophancy and agreement. Exactly. Aside for the title of Ninth Prince, what else does he have? He even has to use a woman's spirit stones. That young lady is truly pitiful, following someone like that. Enough. A cold, clear voice interrupted them. This was not the voice of Qianjue, but that of Jiang Lingxian. She raised her head, her amber eyes fixed on Zhao Tianxi. Her gaze was as calm as water, yet it caused Zhao Tianxi's laughter to come to an abrupt halt. She tilted her head, her tone tinged with a hint of confusion. Why are you talking about him? Zhao Tianxi opened his mouth, unsure of how to respond for a moment. He uses my spirit stones, Jiang Lingshan said earnestly, because his own spirit stones have been spent, and his spirit stones were spent on me. She paused, seemingly organizing her thoughts. Therefore, it is not that he is using my spirit stones, but that I am using his. Zhao Tianxi, the Qianjue. The passers-by, her logic, the way she put it, it seemed sound, yet why did it feel like something was wrong? Jiang Lingshan continued. Besides, he treats me very well. With your filthy gaze, even if you gave me spirit stones, I would never go with you. Zhao Tianxi's face turned from green to white. His lips trembled, and he wanted to say something, but couldn't get the words out. His 3 lackeys also shut their mouths, each shrinking their necks, not daring to look at Jiang Lingshan again. Qianjue stood to the side, watching the expression on Zhao Tianxi's face, as if he had swallowed a fly, and felt incredibly satisfied. However, his face remained calm, even carrying a hint of a gentle smile. Young Master Zhao, have you heard everything Miss Jiang said? Zhao Tianxi gritted his teeth, a flicker of malice flashing in his eyes, but he quickly suppressed it. After all, the other party held the status of an imperial prince. He could not strike directly, as that would be insubordination. The reason he had come to mock him was due to habits formed over many years at the academy, and also because he wanted to show off his prestige to his lackeys, confident that Qianjue would not dare to do anything to him. Yet he had never expected this woman to stand up for him. Zhao Tianxi took a deep breath and squeezed out a smile that looked worse than crying. Ninth Prince, Miss Jiang, it's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. He cupped his hands. I have matters to attend to, so I shall take my leave. With that, he turned and left. His 3 lackeys hurriedly followed, vanishing into the crowd in a flash. Zhao Tianxi walked far away. Jiang Lingshan lowered her head and continued eating her spirit fruit, as if nothing had happened just now. Qianjue looked at her, a wave of warmth rising in his heart. This young lady, although she did not understand worldly affairs, possessed an intuition, or perhaps an original heart, that was purer than anyone else's. Qianjue looked at her with a smile and said softly, Miss Jiang, thank you. Jiang Lingshan raised her head, tilting it to look at him. Thank me for what? Thank you for speaking up for me just now. Jiang Lingshan thought for a moment and said earnestly, I did not speak up for you. I only spoke the truth. Qianjue, yes, the truth. He reached out, took a top-grade spirit stone from the spirit stone bag in her hand, and weighed it in his palm. I will treat this spirit stone as a loan from you. I will return it to you in the future. Jiang Lingshan blinked. No need to return it. Master said that I shouldn't be stingy when with you, and that you may use everything I have. Qianjue and Stephen. Monarch Xiaoyo really said such things? The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, but he quickly suppressed it. What else did your master say? Jiang Lingshan thought for a moment. Master also said that the hearts of people outside the island are hard to fathom, and told me to be cautious. Then what do you think of me? Jiang Lingshan looked at him and said earnestly, all right, it's just that. You are a bit strange. Qianjue. Where is it strange? You are different from yesterday. I can't quite put my finger on exactly what is different. Perhaps this is what Master meant when she said, everyone has their own secrets. Qianjue's mild phrase. He had not expected Jiang Lingshan to be so persistent, but for the sake of his soft rice scheme, he took a deep breath and decided not to explain. Your master is right. Everyone has their own secrets. As for mine, you will know in the future. Jiang Lingshan nodded and did not press further. Qianjue breathed a sigh of relief. His soft rice plan, although it had encountered a small hiccup, was overall quite successful. Partner's protective behavior toward the host detected, defended the host in public. Congratulations to the host for gaining plus 100 soft rice points. Current soft rice points, 15,100 points. Qianjue looked at the number on the system panel, the corners of his mouth curling up slightly. 100 soft rice points was not much, but every little bit adds up. Moreover, this was just the beginning. He glanced in the direction where Zhao Tianxi had disappeared, a flash of coldness in his eyes. Although you have provided me with an assist today, our past grievances should be settled. Otherwise, it would be an insult to my cultivation in the divine king realm. Immediately, he turned his head to look at Jiang Lingxian. Lingxian, wait here for me for a moment. I will be right back. Without waiting for Jiang Lingxian's response, Qianjue sped off in the direction Zhao Tianxi had left. Zhao Tianxi was walking very fast. His 3 lackeys followed behind, having to jog to keep up with his pace. The 4 of them turned into a small alley. The alley was not deep, flanked by towering bluestone walls covered in moss. Sunlight could not penetrate, making it appear somewhat chilly and gloomy. "Young master, please slow down," one of the lackeys said, panting. "Slow down? What is there to slow down for?" Zhao Tianxi snapped his folding fan shut and rapped it against the lackey's head. "That good-for-nothing, bringing a woman along and daring to challenge me. It infuriates me. Young master, please calm your anger. Isn't that 9th prince just an empty title? How can he compare to you?" Exactly. Even though his father is the imperial lord, he isn't favored. Even if your father is only a 3rd-rank Lord Tai Li, he treats you like the apple of his eye. Hearing this, Zhao Tianxi's expression cleared slightly, though it remained gloomy. That good-for-nothing back at the academy didn't even dare to fart. Now he's grown some guts. "Isn't it just relying on a woman?" the lackey said sycophantically. "That young lady is truly wealthy. She pulls out top-grade spirit stones casually. I wonder whose family she is from." A trace of greed flashed in Zhao Tianxi's triangular eyes, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. "She is a successor of the monarch Xianxia. Otherwise, how would that good-for-nothing dare to treat me like that?" "Huh? Young master, who is this monarch Xianxia?" The 3 lackeys looked at him in confusion, while Zhao Tianxi, with a look of exasperation, tapped each of them on the head with his folding fan. "Useless. The monarch Xianxia is one of the top peerless powerhouses of the human race. You don't even know this." "Huh?" Panic instantly appeared on the faces of the 3. They rubbed their foreheads, and one of them spoke up, "Young master, then why are we still provoking the 9th prince? If the monarch Xianxia takes action, wouldn't we be